Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter, and you can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
No! Sleep to Brooklyn!
Co-hosting as always.
Yeah. Oh man, just a whole lot of everything tonight.
The Gremlins come out at night, especially every once in a while here on the Comic Book Chronicles.
Yeah, well, I don't think Lisa's not on our end this time, I think.
Right.
But while I try to reconcile what I'm trying to reconcile, this is the Comic Book Chronicles. You can find us at the Coast of the Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today.
And you can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coast of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. You can also find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube channel of The Kliq Nation. Let's go for tonight. That's youtube.com/The Kliq Nation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell.
Yeah. All of that. But yeah, folks, we are going to get into... Wait, did you hit the thing or... There you go.
I did, but okay.
Yeah, I didn't hear it, so... but it might have been an audio thing. So, anywho, we are going to get into the show running with a spoiler-free recap of today's episode and the finale of the season of Marvel's She-Hulk.
Sure. So this episode is called Whose Show Is This? Is that right?
Whose show is this?
Right. Whose show is this? This is episode 9. And a spoiler alert, because there's really a lot to discuss in a surprisingly short episode. Right? This episode is jam-packed with quickie, and I do mean quickie reveals, like dropped bombshells left and right. So at the end of the day, I'm going to ring the spoiler bell because it's going to be hard to tiptoe around all of them. So spoilers incoming, although we're going to keep them mostly light.
Brief, yes, and light, yes.
In 3, 2, 1. Spoilers are incoming. Heads up.
Yes, so this... As I've seen in a couple of different places, just skipping to the end of this all.
I just want to play this part, just this musical intro. Now, if that sounds familiar to you, you will appreciate the opening to this episode.
Right, and you're old like us.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yes, so basically,
It's too old for this shit.
Yeah, I'll just go quickly and say that one, they made good on something that I didn't think they were going to bring back up. That kind of started with the first episode or first 2 episodes, I guess. Mm-hmm. That I thought we were probably going to see in a movie somewhere, which they still will have to explain that somewhere soon. They don't have to, but I would like to believe they will.
Right.
And everything pretty much from the season. And pretty much everybody from the season, with the exception of probably one person, that one missing, long-awaited character that showed up last episode, which I know that could be one person or another, but showed back up for the finale. One would say we even got a behind the scenes look at the show.
Listen, folks, if you haven't figured it out by now, this She-Hulk show borrows not strictly from the comic books, but heavily from the spirit and the tone of the comic books that She-Hulk has starred in. Everything down to fourth wall breaking in its, at its height.
Shattered.
And I love. Say again?
Shattered fourth wall.
Right. I always get a kick out of the youngins again. For those of you who don't know,
I'm getting too old for this shit.
Who think that that She-Hulk is basically just the female version of what they're trying to do with Deadpool. I'm like, no, She-Hulk did it first.
Yeah, she was the originator of that. Deadpool, as he tends to do, steals things.
Right.
So yeah.
So that's we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of this episode, but in very broad strokes, we saw how the last episode ended with Jen Walters basically hulking out to a certain extent out of control. Not completely out of control, but to a certain extent out of control.
Some would say it's a normal amount of rage for what happened to her.
Of course. No! But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is she's perceived to be a danger. And what happens to a Hulk level powered person who is perceived to be a danger? They get thrown into a cell. Care of damage control. And that's where we find Jen at the beginning of this episode after a nice little retro nostalgic turn of an introduction to the episode. But once we get there, we get to see how things take a turn for the, let's say, surreal.
Weird? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's a better word.
Yeah. Let's say they take a turn for the surreal. I'm literally quoting from Saving Private Ryan. And ultimately, once Jen finds her way out of this cell, she finds her life in a shambles. And as she's trying to recover the pieces and put them back together, that's when things really get crazy. And I will let Roddykat carry it from here, because at the end of the day, this is where the spoilers really start to come in hot and heavy, and we're going to go very light on them.
Honestly, you pretty much said it pretty succinctly. There's really not much else to say outside of the fact that, one, I don't believe there's too many other ways that this season could have ended outside of the way they did it here. Like it takes a turn and it keeps on going and it kind of goes.
I mean, it's right. They do a good job of subverting our expectations, because I think as consumers of Marvel Cinematic Universe content, we are conditioned to think that certain things are going to happen at the end of shows or at the end of movies. And they play on that. They absolutely play on that expectation and turn it on its head and subvert it. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, the writers understood far better than we all thought that they would, 2 years ahead of the actual introduction of the show, how we were all going to receive it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I would like to believe it all paid out.
Or paid off, yeah.
Yeah. With the ending. Like I said, I was like, knowing how the season was going, it was like, well, okay, yeah, this has kind of been going this way, and they're definitely going to keep on the subversion train, and they did. And like I was saying earlier, didn't think they were going to come back to something that they had teased out in the beginning of a couple of episodes, which that happened. We actually did get an end credit scene in the last one, because they were pretty much not doing that for the last few episodes.
Right. And you know what's funny about that is that if you were watching the credits, it got spoiled for you.
Yes.
Because you're like, wait, this character hasn't shown up.
That's exactly how it was. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Because I was like, wait a minute. Oh, of course. And this is not the first time that has happened, because I know this happened in probably one of the other Marvel shows.
Right.
So.
What happened in the end credit scene didn't jive with what I thought would happen, but the character that obviously was spoiled by the credits ended up appearing. It just didn't. What happened wasn't what I expected.
Right, because I found myself going like, wait, this character wasn't. Oh,
right.
And actually, I went looking through the credits on a slight side note. I went through, I kept going through the credits and through the whatnot, and I was like, there was a piece of music that apparently was used here that I don't remember being used from another Marvel from a Marvel movie. I was like, I don't remember that happening, but okay, sure.
Music is that?
The Black Panther theme. Well, at least not in this episode. It did in the last one, but not in. I don't remember hearing it, but maybe I have to go back and watch it. Either way, it was just something a little something that was that I just happened to see. Otherwise, just to kind of keep this moving. Yeah, it was good. If you can watch it spoiler free, and hopefully you can, I would like to believe that you will be amused, enjoyed, entertained, if anything else.
It was entertaining. I honestly sat up watching this, this morning and partially this afternoon because, as I said, it's a shorter episode. Mm-hmm. So it actually goes by quickly. But I remember sitting up and saying, "No way."
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
A couple of times. Once with the intro. Yes. And once the intro came, there were quite a few, once there's as I said earlier, the shattering, as Roddykat put it, the shattering of the fourth wall leads to a bunch of different interactions, as well as the tail end of the episode with another return cameo appearance by not one, not two, but three different Marvel heroes and/or characters. Mm-hmm. One that was teased because, it was like a running subplot the entire season. So we'll see. And I even recall Jen Walters saying, "Oh, save that for the movie."
Right.
And there's a bunch of things that are happening in this that they might save for a movie.
Right. We can hope.
We will see. It is very interesting that Marvel and Kevin Feige specifically decided to go this route and permitted these routes to be explored.
Right. It bodes well that, well, not bodes well, but it's a good look that as precious as companies can be with their properties, looking at DC, can kind of allow it to extend above and beyond what's already been set. Kind of push the levels a little bit.
Okay.
So, and as far as DC is concerned, we'll get on that mess later on because there was something that didn't really sit right with me that happened in the news. That being said, I think we're done with
Black Adam just premiered, and some of the reviews were like, "Well, the action's great, the story's kind of shaky." I'm like, "Oh boy!"
I mean, yeah, I've seen.
Seriously, that is the low answer.
Well, I mean, it's preview night. It's not out yet because it didn't come out for another couple of weeks. But yeah, people have gotten preview screenings or whatnot, and I have seen a couple of those. I've seen some people say they liked it.
It opened in New York.
Oh, did it?
Right. Well, no, it opened for like a opening night type red carpet event. Right. So they let some of the reviews out. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Okay. But I've been seeing people who's seen screenings of it or whatever the case may be talk about it in the last day or two. So
right. They lifted the embargo, I think.
Right. So it was like, okay. Which I honestly I don't, and I can't say I can speak for Agent 70, but you might be along the same lines. Wasn't really hopeful for that being a fantastic movie, even though haven't seen it yet for ourselves.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think either of us are in a rush to go see it.
Nope. So, but it is what it is. But we'll get to it when we get to it. Anyway, right. That's She-Hulk we were talking about because to get back off DC whatever. But yeah, She-Hulk was the thing. Hope you can watch it unspoiled. And I'm looking forward to. I would like to see another season or possibly a movie. I mean, I would like to believe she's going to show up in a movie. despite something that was said in the show. But hopefully another season will come out of this, if nothing else. Put it that way.
The VisFX team have moved on to another project.
Yes, they have. All right, next up though,
and also of note, we should all ask Roddykat. Make sure you hit him up on socials to so that he watches Wall-E, the Pixar movie.
Get off of that.
Should watch it. Wall-E's really good.
I don't know that I mean, just go ahead and put another point on it. I've had that conversation with other more recent Disney Pixar and Disney movies of that ilk, because I hadn't seen any of them. Anything past.
I was about to say Wall-E's been out for a long time.
But what I'm saying is,
more recent, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, but no. But I'm saying anything after, I would say Toy Story 2, I have not seen.
Oh wow, that's going back a ways.
That's what I'm saying. So.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I know I hadn't watched much since Wall-E.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, as far as Disney, I watched like Princess of the Frog with somebody, but that was. Again, that was it. And actually, anything Pixar or Disney outside of that, past Toy Story 2, I haven't seen.
Right. I mean, Toy Story 3, I remember watching on DVD. Right. I did not go to the theaters for that. So. Right.
And I barely remember Toy Story 2, so I can't even say if I actually watched that. But that's neither here nor there, because we got other stuff to talk about. The next thing, speaking of the effects team, moving on to other things, Werewolf by Night special dropped last week.
Right. And it's, it was out. It's a standalone special. It's out, obviously, for Halloween spooky season, which we are now neck deep in. And ultimately, it is Marvel's stab, pun intended, stab at some kind of PG-13 plus horror.
And you know what? It was fun. It was all right. It worked out. It worked well the way they did it, I think.
I mean, I thought it was okay. I enjoyed the characters. It follows some characters that we are somewhat familiar with as comic book fans, like Elsa Bloodstone. Mm-hmm. We do get the unfortunately named Jack Russell, the titular Werewolf by Night. And, he's on even earlier than we thought.
Wait, what? Who?
Konnichiwa, my friends.
Ah, nice.
What's going on?
Let me see if I can
Not much. Long time no see since Sunday.
Since Sunday. So I guess we'll rearrange a couple of the things that we're talking about here.
Well, hang on. Let me rearrange this this shot first.
Sorry, no, I don't want to interrupt. Please continue your flow. I'm happy to chime in and give you my thoughts on the 20th best crossover. why Nomad's better than Stingray, and why you shouldn't be Googling for the Black Adam end credits right now.
Oh no!
Oh wow! Okay, that's the thing, huh?
That's something new. I had not heard that yet.
Oh yeah, they Warner Brothers has kind of hit a lot of websites pretty hard for that right now.
Okay.
You got your shot up?
Pink. Yes. Let me just fade on over. Pink. There we go.
So let's do a quick introduction of our very special guest today, at Matt Wang97, friend of the show. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be back.
And we just recapped. I doubt you had a chance to watch today's episode of She-Hulk. So you I think missed something that you might have been spoiled on.
I've purposely been trying to avoid spoilers, but it is very hard.
Right.
I think I have a good guess on what the end credits are. I'm not. Look. All I'll say is I'm a big fan of Greg Pak.
Well, that's
okay.
Right.
Sure.
Greg, I was going to say there is definitely a reference to something Greg Pak based story introduced, but it's not an end credit. Believe it or not, that's not an end credit.
And all I know is I remember when we were younger, you loved that spectacular spectacular Spider-Man issue where they had the Toad, Leapfrog. No. That was that Leapfrog theme guy. and you just walked around class with it all the time. So I'm just really happy to see it.
That's funny. I have that very beat up comic still. That is very funny. So,
which it is a real issue. Spectacular Spider-Man. I think it was in the 200s.
I want to say it was an amazing issue, but because I'm thinking it was during the black costume era, but we might be thinking of different comics. But that's very funny. We actually moved on to Andor. I don't know if you managed to watch that this week.
Well, we were still on Werewolf.
Werewolf by Night. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We were just about to start Werewolf by Night. Did you happen to catch that already, Matt?
No, not yet. But please start. It'll take me a little while. I don't want to slow you guys down.
No, we're not going to do a lot of big spoilers because a lot of us are just now catching up to this because of busy weeks last week and this week being a short week. So we were just saying that we did see some familiar faces and familiar names to us as comic book fans, and we had seen some of these characters revealed in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
We were introduced to Elsa Bloodstone and some other characters, obviously the titular Werewolf by Night, and a character whose touch burns up those who know fear.
Those who know fear know this character. Yes,
right.
One of the writers of that character spoiled that on Twitter. I follow him on Twitter, and he posted a screenshot. He was very excited. Very excited.
It's really a nice It's more than a cameo. It's definitely a good guest turn in the show. So I think we can leave it at that because at the end of the day, there's a lot of pseudo monster hunting going on in this episode. That's kind of the premise of this particular special event. Mm-hmm. And I started this just as Matt was coming on, that this is like a really strong, I don't know if this is rated R, but it's definitely rated, no. It's like a strong PG-13.
Yeah, it's I think they said it was a PGMA or something like that, but it's definitely not R. Yeah.
Right. It's definitely a strong PG. It's because there's a little bit of bloodletting, let's say.
Right.
So at the end of the day, this is not something for the little kids. It might be a little on the scary side for them, but it's still pretty fun. I'll let Roddykat continue because I know that he said he really enjoyed this. I thought it was okay. I don't have like the most. I don't have the strongest connection to these characters. I just kind of enjoy for what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either.
Did the Midnight Sun show up?
No, but I've seen people kind of bucking for that. I mean, there is that video game coming, so who's to say? Who's to say they won't have something? They are definitely seem to be pushing along those lines with upcoming things.
Right, like which version of the Midnight Suns too, right?
Right. Well, with what we know we have coming, and unfortunately a delayed movie that's coming up, we got some core-ish members, I guess, or at least a couple.
Mm-hmm. Right. Just I guess this is the lightest spoiler. The werewolf effects are practical.
Yes.
That's the lightest spoiler. So when you see it, you'll be like, oh, okay.
Right. Like they pretty much went that whole like 1930s, 40s kind of, not necessarily, some people were saying grindhouse when they saw the trailer, but it doesn't even go that far. Like it's kind of more like almost harkens back to the 30s and 40s type of horror movies and the like, which kind of to its credit kind of does well because even some of there's a one effect for one character that shows up that's just straight up kind of some old school Chuck E. Cheese-ness, you might say. So, but yeah, I thought it was good and fun. I don't really have the most affinity for most of those characters either that show. Well, not most of those. There's only a couple, but characters that show up. But I thought it was a good fun thing, and I kind of hope they revisit it, and they probably will revisit it at some point. It seems like they have plans to do that. I was kind of expecting there to be a certain location to show up. And I don't know in the end if that was that place. But I'm fairly certain I don't think it is.
You mean where the creature normally resides?
Right.
Gotcha.
But I don't think that was that. But yeah, like I said, they have stuff to kind of go on for when they do when they revisit these characters. I would like to believe, because I'm pretty sure we will see these folks again.
Pretty sure.
Yeah. But yeah, that was that for Werewolf By Night. Now I think we're going to go into Andor.
Sorry about that.
Have you been keeping up with this Matt?
I'm not completely caught up, but okay. I'm really enjoying it, and I think obviously for fans of Rogue One, this is a great continuation. I think the acting's good. I think the storyline's tight. I think we're really seeing a renaissance in with the Star Wars franchise on kind of these platforms, right? Not on the big screen, right? Whether it's in games, comics, or streaming. I think I think those are potentially better mediums for the franchise.
Yeah, that's true. I can agree with that. So, and we won't necessarily spoil Andor either. We're just going to go short stroke and say that you are caught up with the last episode, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So
we're going with the most recent episode. That's what he means. Like because if I recall, Matt, you said that you're a little bit behind.
Just a little bit, yeah. So
right. We won't. Right. So you know that exactly. So at the end of the day, what we'll say is that the heist that they're planning,
right,
goes down in this episode. And obviously, every good heist has a good plan, but every good plan always has leaks in it or has problems with it once it meets the enemy. And so that's essentially what we deal with in this episode.
Right. And I will say, given what this is a prequel to, you won't be surprised about some things that happen.
Right. Right. Very much in the vein of Rogue One.
Yes.
Although we did complain that certain characters didn't make it through, maybe possibly based on their skin color. So
yes, we definitely talked about that.
Complained about the show. That.
Yes, there were a couple
not
of characters.
Exactly as bad as a horror film, because the first person to go was an Asian person.
Right, but it still went as bad as the way that kind of thing happens.
Right.
Sadly.
Right. So, but yeah, no, it's definitely, like we're not trying to spoil it for both Matt and the followers, the viewers at home and the listeners at home who are still catching up, because there is literally so much content out there right now that we are all very fortunate to be able to keep up with it on, for ourselves and for the purposes of the show.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Ando's good. That's it still continues to be good. That's the bottom line there.
Yeah, no, seriously, Tony Gilroy, shout out to him.
Mm-hmm.
He's come up with a great, he had a great vision for Rogue One, and it's absolutely translated over into a good story for Andor.
And we're only halfway through the season. That's
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing that we are halfway through this season. And I think we talked about this earlier, that this series was going to be in basically like 4 3-episode arcs. So this is the second of this is the midway point. So we've reached the end of the second arc, the second 3-episode arc. So now I guess we're going to see the fallout and what comes after in the next 3 episodes, and we'll see how that unfolds over the second half of the season.
Yep. That being said, we can push on to Rings of Power.
Matt,
are you on top of this?
I wish I'm stacking. I'm, as they like to say, stacking the episodes.
You know what? And I think that would probably be a good way to. That's probably a good way to watch this. Like each individual episode's kind of been great. Well, it's kind of been good on their own, but just kind of trying to burn through them at a couple of times is probably a good way to go with this one.
Right. I'll admit that the early episodes were a little bit of a snooze fest. They were a little on the slow side. You know, I'm not shy about saying that. At the end of the day, I have a much greater affinity for Lord of the Rings content as opposed to Game of Thrones content, which is unfortunately what it gets compared to, right? So I stuck with it even though it was a little bit slow at the very beginning. But now we're dealing with events that, with places, people, and events that we've heard of in the Fellowship trilogy. You know, we hear about them spoken in the past tense, and we're actually seeing things unfold in the story, and it's just very, it's kind of like, oh, so that's how this happened, and this episode was full of that.
Right.
It's funny. My sister's a big Tolkien fan, like so big, like she's read the Silmarillion, I think, twice.
Wow.
Okay, that's pretty. Yeah, that's
hardcore.
That's hardcore. If you've read the Silmarillion twice, that's hardcore.
So this show's right up her alley. So she's very excited for it.
Mm-hmm. Has she been picking it apart? Not necessarily picking it apart, but just kind of, theory crafting, I guess.
Not with me.
Okay.
But she'll with on some Discord channels and I think some Reddit boards. So
wow.
And then she'll text me some random thing and I'll be like, obviously I've read the books, I've read The Hobbit, I've read but she'll send something to me that's pretty obscure and I'm like, you got me, sorry. I can't.
Yeah, well, shoot, probably just is because there's no way in the hell I was touching the Silmarillion.
I mean, listen, I'm fortunate enough to have read the Fellowship trilogy and The Hobbit.
Right.
Beyond that, though, I don't know, And I read all of those later in life. Mm-hmm. I did not read those like traditionally. That's like a junior high school thing.
High school, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like I know that buddies of mine read it in junior high school, before Matt and I met in high school. So like a lot of our friends in high school, when we got to high school, had already read it. Had already read a lot of the Tolkien stuff.
Right. So, but to get to the short strokes of the show, let's just say, this was a dealing with the fallout of things.
Yes.
From the previous episode.
Yes. We're not trying to spoil it for you, Matt, because you will be excited once you get to this part of the season.
Yes.
That's the thing. Like, after the kind of snooze fest build up, there is a point in the show, what is this, episode 7. So let's say around episode 5, the everything starts to coalesce.
Yeah.
Episode 4, really, but everything starts to coalesce. Then you get more action from 5 on.
Wait. So here's the question.
But I was going to say all the plot threads start to come together in like 3 and 4. So 1 and 2 is like really filled with setup. And once you get to episode 4, it starts to coalesce. 5, there's a bunch of action. 6, there's even more action and a big boom. And now we're in 7.
Yes, big bada boom. So wait, you said you haven't seen any of it. You're just banking the whole series, right, Matt?
No, I'm probably. My guess is I'll probably start like in a couple weeks.
Sure,
okay.
Right.
But you haven't seen any of it.
Right.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Right. That's why I was describing it in as general terms as possible, like just laying it out, just to give you an idea that episodes 1 and 2 really are on the dry side. There's really a lot of world building and establishing characters in those first 2 episodes, but once the stories start to coalesce and like really they dedicate a couple of episodes for some storylines and kind of skip over some others, and they get they kind of retrace their steps to these other characters in later episodes. Once you get to the middle, because I think this is just an 8 episode first season,
right?
So now this is the penultimate episode. And we, as I said earlier, we've really seen a couple of things, more than a few things, that we are now familiar with. If you're familiar with the Fellowship trilogy, and even The Hobbit,
and still leaves questions on some other things. that have been brought up.
With every answer comes more questions.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think
wow, that was, you should put that on a fortune cookie. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure there'll be a clip out there of it somewhere at some later date.
Seriously.
But yeah,
you know what? I think I saw that on a shirt at New York Comic Con.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, right. It's not. I was about to say, I'm pretty sure that's not original. So, but in any event, as Roddykat said earlier off the record, prior to recording, something unfortunate does happen to one of the cooler characters in the show. One of the leaders, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think it was worth making it through those early episodes. I know that there, like I said, I've heard criticism that some of those early episodes turned people off, because there wasn't any, there weren't any, there were some battles, but there weren't any big battles. There was no sex, no incest. I'm like, no, that's Game of Thrones. You need to go over there. So.
Yeah. I was going to say that this was the pity party episode.
A little bit, but at the end of the day, I kind of saw that like everything was kind of coming together in this episode. It was like the picking up the pieces after the big boom. Right.
So, yeah, like I said, once you get, I would love to hear your thoughts on it, Matt, when you get to this part to the end of the season.
Happy to.
Right.
I'm always happy to share thoughts.
I was also going to say it was all because of a leaf. A leaf?
Yes, apparently.
A leaf? Seriously, Matt, when you get to this, you'll be like, seriously, a leaf?
You had to know how far down it went, and now you know.
Right. But a leaf? Come on.
Hey, it always starts with a leaf.
Oh my goodness. All right. So let me just hit quick.
Are we talking about practice? Wait, this is all about practice. We're just talking about practice.
Oh, I was about to say, you're doing an Allen Iverson reference? No, like all I was saying, that's actually a specific reference to what happens in that episode, episode 7 of Rings of Power.
Yeah, when you get there,
because of the leaf.
Yeah,
and when you get there, you'll be like, "Oh, seriously?"
Like, okay, it's all about that. Gotcha. Right. All right, so you got House of Dragon.
Right. Yeah. Right. Episode 8. Right. So I don't know if you're up on this, Matt, at all. Matt, are you up on House of the Dragon at all?
What? No, I'm stacking those two.
No worries. I'm not spoiling this because this is generally how, because Roddykat hasn't watched this at all, so I've generally spoken in very general terms about this. Ultimately, we're 8 episodes in, and we're dealing with characters jockeying for position as a result of the King Viserys, it's not necessarily in real time because there's, we're getting a bunch of time jumps in this first season of House of the Dragon, right? This is all about the house, the House Targaryen and their rise to power, their reign of power, and if you're familiar with Game of Thrones, their eventual downfall and possible return to power, right? So in this episode, it's just the next stage of characters vying for power because, as I said earlier, these time jumps have basically tracked the reign of a king, King Viserys, and now we are very late in this particular king's reign, and everyone is jockeying for position, for the eventual demise of the king. And that is the crux of most of this show. We're tracking these characters who start very young at the beginning of the show, and thanks to the time jumps, we've seen changes in personality, changes in age, obviously, and changes even in the actors portraying these characters. And we've gotten them up to the point where they are of reasonable age to start considering taking power for themselves. The children who grew up, had children, and now their children are becoming of semi-consensual age, like late teens. Those are, that's pursuant to our standards. These Game of Thrones standards are very different. That's putting it mildly. But ultimately, there aren't too many. I don't think there are any dragons in this episode. It's kind of a shame after we've gotten a bunch of dragons in the previous episodes. But that's essentially where we are at the end of this episode, is that everyone's kind of jockeying for position because the king's reign is about to come to an end. So hopefully I haven't spoiled too much for anyone out there, Matt Wang 97 included.
It's very exciting.
Cool beans. All right. And that is that for our recap of TV shows. We are not touching My Hero Academia, Spy X Family, because Roddykat has not watched Spy X Family, nor Chainsaw Man, which premiered Tuesday.
Well, we were gonna get to that when we got to the anime part, but yeah, I still haven't watched that yet. I had forgotten about that until you just said that.
Chainsaw Man is crazy.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, I know a couple of people that have been watching it.
Right, so I think I've talked to Matt Wang about this earlier, but I've been on an anime journey over the course of the pandemic. Right, now that we're in the tail end of the pandemic, I've already gotten through, hopefully, knock on wood, the tail end of the pandemic. I've gotten through a lot of anime, and I've started to jump on new releases. One of them being Spy X Family, the other one being now Chainsaw Man. And Chainsaw Man dropped this week when we were at New York Comic Con. This is a nice little segue into our discussion of New York Comic Con, since we've got Matt Wang on the line right now. We can talk about New York Comic Con, which just happened this past weekend. It's now a week ago it started. And, we'll talk about that. But one of the cosplays that I saw a lot of was from Spy X Family, was Yeoh Forger. Yeoh Forger as a costume for the ladies.
That's a popular one.
Very, very popular. I saw a few Anyas, but Yeoh Forger specifically in that dress.
The black dress, yeah.
Yeah, that was a very, very popular costume for the ladies. So for cosplayers, so of many ages. So it was very interesting to see a new anime like that really get a lot of shine at New York Comic Con.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm caught up with the exception of, I haven't seen the last one, so I did see the first of the new part, but I haven't seen this last part, the past episode. So I'll definitely get that. Probably wait till Saturday actually when the new one drops.
Sure. So like I said, we're going to segue now into our discussion on New York Comic Con 2022. I don't know, Roddykat, if you wanted to shift some of the news up front to talk about.
No, that stuff can stick. Well, I mean, I don't know. Let me see. Tell you what, go start talking, and then I'll
because we're going to talk about mostly our experience, and then maybe
if there's anything,
because Matt's here, and we don't want to have him on too late. Maybe I don't know if there's like a block of news stories that are New York Comic Con related.
There are, but some of his, a lot of it's news. A couple of them is just like, hey, panel, this panel happened, that panel happened.
Right. And, we're about to go into it. So, New York Comic Con 2022 is from Thursday, October 6th through Sunday, October 9th. And I attended Saturday, October 8th and Sunday, October 9th, but at Matt Wang 97 was he's here kind enough to tell us about his experiences on the other days, and including Saturday and Sunday of New York Comic Con. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so I had a 4-day pass. I unfortunately couldn't go Friday, but I did go Thursday, kind of when the show opened, and I think the thing that struck me, the first thing that struck me was the layout was very different. I think things were definitely sort of rearranged, and I think that's part of that is that the change in mix of exhibitors. It felt like in Agent 70, please, let me know if I miss anything here, but it felt like retailers selling merchandise. There were a lot of them, which was great. I think there were a lot of specialty retailers, sort of like, that were back, like your Super Sevens, other new ones. There was a new one, Heroes and Villains, selling kind of like D&D, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, a little edgier, very high-end, really nice stuff. That was where I won the free sweatshirt. I won a great, beautiful D&D expert edition box with a Larry Elmore illustration, and it's very comfortable, very high-end. I was very happy to win that. Nice. But I think a lot of independent comic book publishers were not there. Mm-hmm. What I mean by in the past, the Dark Horses, the Valiants, Image, Sky, a lot of those guys would be there. But we've seen this trend since the pandemic that they haven't been showing up to these shows yet. And I think even San Diego and so other people fill the gap, right? The Agent 70, I spoke a lot about this on the floor on Saturday when we were walking around, but anime, manga have really filled that void, and companies like Crunchyroll and the independent publishers and webtoons have really filled that gap within these shows, and fans are embracing it, which I think is great for. It's just great for the future of these shows and the hobbies we love. But I'll pause there for a second.
Sure. I mean, at the end of the day, it's something that I thought was a byproduct of New York Comic Con's inability to sell floor space to the traditional, as Matt put it, the traditional comic book publishers. They didn't have big booth space in 2021, and obviously in 2020 it was canceled because of the pandemic, right? So this started last year, and I'm presuming they entered into a multi-year agreement to put, things like Toei Animation, Crunchyroll right up front, right where you walk into the main entrance of the show floor, because there was, again, a giant Dragon Ball display right up front. Like, you walk in, Shenron is right there. The OG Dragon Ball Z Dragon is right there, and there are stand-ups of from Dragon Ball Superhero there. So you get Piccolo, you get aged up Gohan, and for photo ops. But at the same time, you also get in some of the other booths, there was a nice stand-up that I know was very popular of the Spy X Family characters. The three family characters, the three members of the family, and that had a nice little crowd in front of there every time I passed by to take pictures with the stand-ups of the three characters from Spy X Family. So I think that the anime, the manga, the animation studios all took up the spaces that had been left vacant by some of the other comic book publishers. So now you're starting to see that. I even heard people notice or make mention of it that, I thought they said out loud, I thought this was going to be a comic book show. There's so much anime here. And I'm like, well, there's nothing wrong with that, because that's part of the culture now.
Right.
Yeah. No, and look, I thought Reed did a very good job with signage compared to other years. We were, I never knew where any of the panels were in New York Comic Con. They were just so bad at that. But it was in clear signage. This is where this is. This is where Artist Alley is. This is where the food is. This is where the autographs are. And I even thought Artist Alley was laid out. I do, like you, Agent 70, miss the hangar.
Right.
I do. I think this is the best way they've laid it out in years.
Right. I think they improved Artist Alley by leaps and bounds from last year, because obviously last year is the first one, during the pandemic times. So, I feel like they addressed some of the shortcomings from last year. The lighting was actually a lot better. They just must have, Javits might have just redone the lighting during the interim period. I agree that the layout was well done. They had the artist lounge area in the back. They had an exclusive signing area in the back. I know on Saturday that's where the Jim Lee signing was. The ticketed Jim Lee signing was in Artist Alley. I think that there's still, Reed Pop still has many areas that it can improve upon. One of them was the reservation system to get into some of the ticketed signings and the ticketed panels, because that was a gigantic mess. We've talked about it on the show because, we talked about some of the news. We talked about it as news items on the show. And I know that I'm sure that there are people who are still very sore about not getting, about falling through the cracks in the reservation system because of the crash of the system on the first day and, not being able to get through on the second day. The other thing that came up, and a friend of ours, a mutual friend of myself and Matt's, ran into this, and I heard other people complain about this as well, was the autograph area was like a free-for-all. Like, it was not run well at all. This might have been a Sunday thing, and I feel like Sunday is the day when things do fall apart, because on Sunday is when some of the staffers have kind of had it after 4 days of dealing with New York Comic Con. But that's been my experience. I don't know if Matt can back me up on that, but
Sunday was a madhouse.
Yeah,
it was like you couldn't. I purposely avoided the escalators just because, you and I are savvy conners, right, or I don't know, convention goers, and
right.
So I purposely went down another escalator that was less crowded, so I didn't have to deal with the Artist Alley escalator.
Right.
Because there's no staircase. So things like that. And I think, talking to some of the artists and other exhibitors, I think they were, and I'm not sure if this is true, but they seem to think there were less panels, especially near the Sunday afternoon.
Right.
So everyone was hitting the floor. Look, a lot of people were looking for bargains.
Yeah.
And you were able to get them, right? Sunday afternoon. You're like, people are packing up, you've done it. I've seen you do it. You
I know.
Their boxes, and you're like, hey, I'll give you 50 cents on the dollar for that. And they look at you and you're like, I don't want to take it home. So here, done.
Exactly. I'll tell you that on Sunday, Sunday was like a true, not Kids Day, but even it was both Kids Day and Family Day. Right? Because we actually had little reunions with a bunch of friends and family from all the way around. And I could tell you that I had a friend come in from upstate New York, an old friend, and his family, he's got kids that range in age from just starting college all the way down to junior high school. And so the older kids were free to walk the floor, but the younger two, kind of had to stay with, well, the youngest one had to stay with mom and dad, and mom and dad were not seasoned con goers, so they were pretty wiped out. They'd gone on Friday and had gotten a lot of their stuff done, but then they came back on Saturday, and by the time they came back on Sunday, that is, and by the time we got to about 1 or 2 o'clock on Sunday, they were wiped out. They were done. And so, that is in part due to Sunday, as Matt said, being a madhouse. Like Sunday was like, there was like a crush of people on Sunday. I don't, it probably is due to the fact that there were not that many panels and not many events going on Sunday that kept people in other rooms. But the show floor was a madhouse on Sunday.
Yeah, and it was, and the feedback I was getting from retailers was it felt like Thursday they were spending money. People were spending money Thursday and Sunday, definitely. And I think people were worried after Friday because it felt like Friday people weren't spending money. But, talking to a bunch of retailers Sunday, they felt like they moved a lot of stock and they weren't bringing that much stuff back.
That's good. That's good. The retailers I spoke to on Saturday were, kind of reflected that same vibe, that same general sentiment, because I think they were hesitant to say they wanted to see what Sunday was like, and then when I passed by them on Sunday, they were all swamped. So that seemed like a good thing, that people were out there. They were, doing some retail business right there. Man, were you able to get anything cool for yourself at the con?
Well, I told you I got that free. Like, I was eyeing that sweatshirt, and I got it, so I was pretty excited about it. Let me grab it. Why don't you describe what the cool stuff you got?
Sure. So I'm going to drop my background because I was only able to get a few things. So I did get a couple more signatures on my Heroes book. I was able to get Dan Jurgens and Tom Derenick, thanks to Tom Derenick specifically, thanks to @MattWang97 because he spotted his name. So shout out to Matt for that. I also got signed. I actually saw Jonathan Hickman, but the line to see him was so long. So I did not get his signature. I did, though, get Jed McKay's signature, so I had a chance to meet him and say what's up. I got him to sign the Black Cat #1, which is already signed by J. Scott Campbell, as you can see here. But you can see McKay's signature right there underneath the title bar of Black Cat. I did miss him on Sunday, though. I did not get back to his table in time to get him to sign the Mary Jane and Black Cat Beyond one-shot. I would have loved to get him to sign this. This was a great one-shot. But, that's not so bad. I did run into John Beatty. And John Beatty was Mike Zeck's longtime inker. And, one of the things that I talked to Roddykat about, and I know I talked to Matt about, was some of the increased prices for signatures now. Obviously, that wasn't always the case with getting signatures. More often than not, signatures were free, and some people abuse that privilege. So, and obviously as things have gotten more expensive and time has gone on, and collectability and eBay and CGC signature certification and grading have all raised the profit margins on these books. So too have the creators in charging for their signature. So I ran into John Beatty, Mike Zeck's inker, and I had the choice to have him sign either Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars #1 or #8. So I have both of them already signed by Mike Zeck. And even John Beatty said, get #8 signed. What's #8? It's the first appearance. It's the first appearance of the symbiote costume. So I got him to sign here, right underneath the title bar, and I got Mike Zeck to sign in the past. Now I would have gone to Jim Shooter, but I was running low on funds because they all wanted $30 to sign Secret War stuff. Right? So hopefully Jim Shooter, as the New Yorker, I will be able to catch on another go around. It just happened to be that day I did not want to have to go to the ATM. But one thing I was very happy to get a signature for, and I was very, very happy to contribute to a fund, was Jeff Loeb was fundraising for money for the family of Tim Sale, the late Tim Sale who passed away. So when I ran in, so again, thanks to @MattWang97, saw Jeff Loeb. He had already passed through the con floor on Thursday, so he knew where he was, or at least had an idea where he was. He spotted Jeff Loeb for me, and I got Captain America White number 0 and Spider-Man Blue #1 signed by Jeff Loeb. I'm holding it up right here. And I previously was blessed to have had Tim Sale sign these books as well, and Jeff Loeb really appreciated that. And I did not mind in the least ponying up $40 basically for 2 signatures, because it's a worthwhile thing to fundraise for Tim Sale's family.
And look, Jeff Loeb is a hard one to get, right? He lives in California, has a pretty busy production schedule. Right. You're not going to get him. I usually have only seen him on the West Coast in San Diego Comic-Con. So I think you did great there.
Yeah, definitely. That was definitely worth it. And I think the last thing that I have, I did not get a lot of prints this year. I think it was because my Sunday was just taken up with all like family. I literally had, my sister and my niece in tow for a lot of the day, and my cousin and his family for a lot of the day. And then I ran into mutual friends of ours, that I have with Matt. I even ran into church friends and their kid. So it was very much a family day.
Roddy, you overappreciate this. I mean, when I bumped into Agent 70 and we'd roll up onto a table, it was like an entourage.
Yeah,
I don't doubt it.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah,
and there was like, he had like an uncle like taking pictures.
Yeah,
with a rice cooker.
So I did see some of Agent 70's pictures with his fam and stuff. I'm like, yeah, y'all were deep.
Yeah, no, we rolled. There was that was multiple groups too.
Right.
That was multiple groups that I was rolling with. So it was very, very fun.
I got hungry and put out my hand, someone put a snack in it. It was awesome.
So we ran into a friend of one of our mutual friends, Jerry Ma, who did the Monkey Prince, right? That Kickstarter book.
No. Your Monkey Prince is the DC character.
Oh no, Monkey King.
We had this
God, I keep messing that up.
It's sorry, Agent 70, wrong Asian.
Is it the Monkey King?
Yes.
Damn, I keep messing that up. I know it's all based off of the Journey into the West, where that Dragon Ball is based off of. So it's Monkey King. I apologize. So it was Monkey King. And so I picked up this print. It's a print of basically all the Asian and Asian American heroes at Marvel, or most of them. The mainstream ones. So you have Silk, Sunfire, Jubilee, Shang-Chi, and Ms. Marvel, all on one print. So as soon as I get a chance, I think I have the appropriate size frame for this, and I am going to put this up on the wall behind me here in the home office. And I know that both Matt and myself had commissioned artwork by Agnes Garbowska. I don't have the original in front of me, but I did get a watercolor. I commissioned a watercolor of a Demon Slayer character that my niece was cosplaying as. My 4-year-old niece was cosplaying as Sayuri from Demon Slayer. And Agnes Garbowska was incredibly kind during the entire process.
Yeah, no, and then your niece was watching this get drawn for my girls.
Yes, she watched both that and what she was getting for herself. So that's amazing. That hold that up again, Matt. Roddykat, did you see that?
Yeah, hold it up again because the everybody else didn't see it. There we go.
Right. So it's Wonder Woman and Batgirl.
In the newer superhero girl style.
Yes, nice. Phenomenal stuff. She's a sweetheart, Agnes, and that's really, really one of the great things that I've discovered over the last couple of New York Comic Cons. Like, I discovered her stuff last year, and I probably knew about it before. We probably talked about it on the show. But actually seeing her live in person and seeing the prints that she was selling, really, and watching her do these watercolors live, really impressed upon me, her skill.
Oh, so here's another cool thing. I didn't want it signed to me, but he signed it to me.
Who's that by?
Who do you think? The test.
I can see this. I can see the signature, but I can't make it out. Who is it?
Rizzo.
Oh, that's right. You told me about that. Eduardo Rizzo. That's cool. That's very cool.
And then I had the other piece here. You met my friend Emilio Lopez.
Yes. Wow.
Snake.
Yeah. He's the colorist for Excellence. So he's Kari's colorist.
Oh, okay.
On everything he does. So then I just found out on Twitter, and I need to thank him. You know that cover for I Am Batman, where he's fighting Azrael in the old Batman armor?
Yes.
I don't know if you see that cover recently, and they basically recreated like a Norm Brayfogle cover, even with like the little logo box and the actual Batman logo from that era. You know, Emilio worked on that, and it was just talking about like all the influences.
Nice.
Oh, very cool.
And then here, you asked for this. This is the sweatshirt.
Oh, there it is. That is so cool.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
And then, one thing I recommend to people, and Age of 70, I think next New York Comic Con you should do is the Disney Publishing, their book publishing arm, always has really nice San Diego Comic Con deals.
Mm-hmm.
And they always release some new books. So you've got children's books and young adult books. They're premiering the new Wakanda Forever children's book. That was like a fairy tale, and if you bought that book, you got a free beautiful bag.
Right, a tote bag. I've done that before. Yeah. Did they do something this year?
Yeah, they have that tote bag, and then they had did a continuation of the San Diego offer, where I think it was like if you bought over $20 worth of stuff, which is not hard, right? You buy 2 books.
Right, exactly.
You got one of the their theme this year is villains, so you got the villains bag.
Oh.
And then, right, I remember two versions of that.
I remember getting, I think it was a Rocket and Groot book, and I think last year or 2 years or 3 years ago, I remember hitting up Disney Publishing for kids books, at New York Comic Con. So I definitely remember that. I just didn't. I don't know what happened to my schedule on Saturday. It just decided to go up in flames. I must have missed a bunch of things that I normally see, but I think it was partially due to the change in layout, because I wasn't 100% sure where some things were. Obviously, I was familiar with where a lot of the anime and the animation stuff was because right up front, but I forgot to go towards that retail area on the show floor where Disney Publishing would be, towards you have to go north from that main entrance, and it's on the front side where past the toys, but before you get to the hardcore smaller retailers. So that's where I forgot to go. But I'll tell you, I did take a deep dive into the smaller retailers in the back. That's where a lot of commerce was going on Sunday. There was a lot of it. It was jammed back there because people, as Matt said, were looking for deals, and retailers and booths were definitely in the mood to make some deals. That was a madhouse back there. The second you went towards that back area where the smaller retailers were, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But overall, a good show for both of you, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's always it's always I think the changes were for the better. I think I like the diversity in product. The food layout was different, and you just gotta keep making changes. It keeps us all excited about the show. Well, and I think keeps things from getting stale, and I hope they continue to support Artist Alley.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are obviously some places where they can improve, like that autograph area. You know, I heard a bunch of different bad stories about the autograph area. That's never. I don't know how they can run that better than how they're doing it right now. Maybe, as I said earlier, it's just the staff kind of losing their patience on a Sunday, and it just became a free for all. Because that's what our friend Joe said. That the autograph area was a free for all on Sunday. The cosplay area was pretty fun on Saturday. I did not have a chance to go there on Sunday because I had so many people in tow behind me. But I missed seeing what that looked like on Sunday. Fortunately, for the 4 days of Comic-Con, we actually had very good weather. You know, the first 2 days, Thursday and Friday, the temps were in the low 70s in here in New York City. So I'm sure there were plenty of people outside, and maybe that's why there wasn't as much business going on Thursday. Well, maybe there was plenty on Thursday, but maybe not so much on Friday because the weather was so nice and people were just outside eating and, you know, hanging out with the cosplayers.
I think my favorite costume was the Mandalorians. I think those were my favorite. There was a couple guys. No, it was the Mandalorians, and then they had like hovercycles. But yes, then I think my favorite one. I don't know if did you see the New Egg armor? It was sponsored by New Egg, and it was basically a guy in like robotic power armor. And he was like towering over people and like walking the show.
No, I did not see that. I definitely saw. I mean, we both saw the Mandalorian with his motorcycle / speeder. That was pretty cool.
That one too. Yeah.
What's that?
I think I saw someone that posted a picture of that also.
Right, I definitely posted a picture of that too.
Yeah.
I would say that Mandalorians were popular. I know that. I saw a really nice looking Psylocke. Shout out to @TheVenix. She's pretty fly as a cosplayer. I think that's her Insta post or her Insta username. What else? But I think that outside. I guess it's what it is. They only have so much space. It's limited. They have food trucks there for people to get, to have other sources of food. So, cosplay is kind of split up into kind of two areas in that roadway. Who I did meet, and I was telling Roddykat this, a relatively internet famous cosplayer named Allison Tabitha. She's well known for doing the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman. So if you look her up on Instagram, it's like ALYSON, right? And once you put that in, you'll see a couple of her usernames there. But she was a featured guest of the show, and I met her, and she was super cool. I met her late on Saturday. They had her up in like the cosplay area, like you have to go up past the food court, up past like that second level food court, so like where the I think there was a manga library, a manga borrowing library up there as well. Mm-hmm. So, that was one of the different things that they put into the show this year as well. There were a bunch of different little things that you had to kind of really check the map for and kind of to find.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was like a cosplay area. They had like the cosplay judging up there too. So. And cosplay panels up there, like specifically for cosplay. So it was pretty interesting. There's, like I said, there's still so much that they can improve on, but it's starting to get back to normal. It's not there yet. We didn't have that much stuff that was like offsite. Like remember there was a time when there were like huge panels at like there's like a theater on I want to say 34th Street. Where they had like big panels like Walking Dead stuff and
right, Hammerstein Ballroom.
The Hammerstein Ballroom, right? And at the end of the day, they haven't gotten to that level back. They haven't gotten back to that yet. So we'll see where that we'll see when that comes. Probably in the near future. Let's hope.
Yeah, no, they've got it for San Diego. That's all back.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but I agree with you.
Yeah, so we'll see how 2023 goes. Hopefully, we're all in better shape to get back to that next year.
Right, yeah.
So, Matt, how long we got you for?
About probably another 15 minutes.
All right, cool. So since we can talk about some news bits from the show, we'll I guess we're basically going in back as we normally don't do news around the time. But let me switch this over to here, and I guess I'll start here because that's something from this week's books. Anyway, Marvel reveals X-Men's Sins of the Sinister trailer. So did you get a chance to see that?
You mean Age of Apocalypse with Mr. Sinister?
Basically.
I mean,
I heard that. I heard that same comment.
I feel like we've said that same comment, like when this was first announced.
Look, I'm really excited for they're spicing. I'm really excited for the Nightcrawlers comic because I want to see like Nightcrawler mixed with Wolverine, Nightcrawler mixed with whatever. Yeah, very excited for that.
So that's the next. Yeah, so that was the next bit of the news talking about the hybrid characters, and that was during the Next Big Thing panel, which the trailer came out back. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that too because again, I think it's bringing back that stuff from that they kind of introduced in Hoxpox, if I'm not mistaken, because they kind of teased that whole future Chimera stuff.
The only thing, one thing, and I'm going to bring you back to the 90s. Is remember when Age of Apocalypse came out, and Marvel was in a different place. They were going through financial troubles, and no one knew the X-Men comics were coming back.
Right.
So I think that was part of the excitement of Age of Apocalypse.
Man, talk about. I mean, it wasn't necessarily pre-internet, but definitely pre what the internet is now.
Right.
So
definitely well before Twitter.
We still depended on Wizard Magazine for all our future news.
Yeah.
Right. Social media wasn't even a thing basically, especially the way it is now.
Right.
So
funny.
Let's see.
I can't remember. Sorry to interrupt. Is Kieran Gillen the one writing Sins of Sinister?
Yes.
Right. So that's great. Like he's got it. I read his newsletter. He's got Judgment Day, right, and it leads to this.
Right. So how you feel? So are you up on Judgment Day? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, I already rated Agent 70 like this. I started here and I went like that, and then he put me in some told me I couldn't blow him up and just recreated it, and I blew up Iceland. So I'm caught up.
Oh boy! Yeah, it's interesting. So is that Kieran Gillen? Is that a Substack newsletter or is that just his regular?
It's a free. No, it's a free one. It's a free. It's a free one.
Yeah. I was about to say I should probably subscribe to that because I subscribe to Jason Aaron's free newsletter. So I get emails from him. But
I should do that. Well, that's the one I should sign up for. That one's probably really good.
Right. I should definitely sign up for Kieran Gillen because, Kieran Gillen really got me when they had the progenitor Judge Cap the way they judged him, but now he's kind of redeemed himself in my eyes as the Judgment Day story has progressed. So,
did you ever read Die? Kieran Gillen.
I'm familiar with it though.
Yeah, it's right on my alley. It's like Kieran Gillen's a big tabletop role playing guy. Very much into that. That's part of his newsletter. So it's really Die was a great indie comic from Image. That was amazing. But,
right. I think we talked about that when it first started, but I think none of us kind of stayed on it, or after the first issue.
Yeah. But going back, what he's done with the Eternals, and if you read his newsletter, you pick up a little bit of it, is probably what I think we all wish the Inhumans would have been.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the Eternal stuff to me was a little hard to follow. I don't know how you felt about it, Matt. I didn't mind the Inhuman stuff. I felt like they tried to expand it too much, because they needed to populate the hole that they felt was there because they didn't want to exploit the X-Men, because of Perlmutter's edict, right? So whereas with the Eternals, they were already like kind of like this larger group of people, so that they only had to really emphasize this group that they were going to have in the movie.
Yeah, but for me, maybe I think Cersei was always an Avenger to me, just
Right.
because you guys all make fun of me for the for loving the '90s jackets era, right? And so I always have fond memories of her, and then you'll make fun of me again when I say like that Avengers 300 issue where like who knew who the Avengers were going to be? It became like the Captain, Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, and Gilgamesh.
Right.
So I was like,
Yes.
Gilgamesh always has a soft spot because he only lasted like 3 issues, right? And then he had to like be kicked off the team. So, but
I had a good time with some of the stuff that happened after that, like when they went into when they fought Zeus and the Olympians.
Yeah.
That's actually before that. Come to think of it, no, was it before? No, because Gilgamesh was with them at that time. So
yeah, he was, and that's when he got kicked off the team.
Right.
But you know what? I know, like I read Avengers, I read X-Men, I don't read Eternals, but I think when I read Judgment Day, I was like, you know what? I like what I saw there. I'm gonna go back.
Okay.
Those other issues, and I think that's what he's supposed to do, right? And he made it different enough. And I think I'm not going to spoil anything, but the hook he put in there for the Eternals and how they stay alive, I was like, wow, why didn't anyone ever think of that earlier?
Right. It's a play on. I was about to say it's a play on the X stuff, right? It's definitely a play on the Hoxpox stuff, the resurrection stuff, but it's also a way to differentiate itself. And I appreciate this because Roddykat and I have kind of complained about the MCUification of the comics, over the last several years. And this particular aspect of the Eternals is a twist on that, right? It's a twist on what's in the movie, right? Because in the movie, it was more like, they're just a bunch of, pre-programmed robots. Whereas here, they're still programmed, but it's not exactly the same.
Correct. Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I appreciate that Gillen, made that effort to make it not exactly like the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got going.
Alrighty.
What's next?
Flip over here. So Captain America Cold War erupts across the Marvel Universe. This was a article off of the Captain America panel from Thursday night. I know 8-70, you didn't get a chance to go to this one. Matt, did you happen to catch that panel? The Captain America panel?
No. I read the aftermath. I mean, I'm a big Cap fan. I just haven't been able to like get into the 2 new titles, and it's not because I'm not a fan of both of them. I think I'll be very honest, like I just didn't know who the writers were, so I was just like, I'm not going to get into it. But I thought the panel was really interesting. Like I read what happened at the panel, I thought it was very interesting. I'm not sure how the twist that they talk about. I'm not sure how what I think about it, but I know they've been struggling to figure out a home for that character, so maybe this is the home.
Right. So yeah, we have an article basically going through the talking points of that whole panel, which won't go full into, but yeah, it seems like they're gonna do something. They're doing something with it.
Yeah. What I would say is, one, the writers on the Steve Rogers title were actually former guests of the show,
right?
Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing. So we've had them on our show before for a creator-owned book that they were writing, and ultimately, it's definitely everything seems to be a twist on things that we've read. That shows you that we're all,
I'm too old for this shit.
like we really are, because we're starting to see some storylines, not recycled, but we start to see twists on storylines that we read as younger readers being adapted by people who are our contemporaries or even younger than we are, right? So say these writers now are roughly in our age bracket or maybe even a little younger, and they're looking to do their own twist on some things that they read Roger Stern write, or that they read Mark Grunwald write, or even, Perish the Thought, stuff that Brubaker's already touched on, especially when it comes to dealing with the Winter Soldier. So that's what I'm starting to see. And I think that, when we were dealing with Ta-Nehisi Coates, I definitely saw what periods of Captain America's history he was mining to tell his story. It was clear as day, like what his influences were.
Right.
And this story, this Cold War story, as they're dealing with these kind of two parallel stories, I haven't read this yet, so I do need to see what they have planned for this Cold War story about how they're all going to intersect together, because up until now it's been hard to see how they intersect, although we kind of see them heading towards I guess heading towards confrontations with the big bads of their opening arcs, and I guess that's where the crossover is going to come in. I could be wrong, I haven't read this article.
Right. So I was going to say something about some of that stuff, like you've been saying. It's like some of them are pretty much like, hey, this is their influence, and this is where they're from. Some of it I feel like is, and it's probably bears out there, right? It was the 80th anniversary of Marvel, so they kind of wanted to but bring up some old advanced storylines. Like a lot of that stuff kind of came out, but because of that, I like to believe it may have been said as though, I don't know. But I do agree with you about it's just certain writers, creators of a certain age, just kind of mining that stuff that they grew up with, or we all grew up with. So
right.
I guess next up is Marvel's EIC talks Strange Academy and new artwork. This was from another panel with C.B. Cebulski, with Nick Lowe, and Hickman was supposed to be there, but wasn't. Humberto Ramos was there. And if it's anything like that Spider-Man panel, I can imagine Nick Lowe was just kind of going.
Okay.
But it says here that it started out with Cebulski eulogized the late Kim Jong-gi, who passed on earlier this month.
He passed away right before the con, like the day before the con.
Right. And there was some new artwork for Strange Academy. Looks like the Strange Academy 18. There was some discussion about that. We were talking to Humberto Ramos about working on the series. But that's pretty much the gist of this panel. But it's the next one, I think. Yeah, Marvel announces the future of Spider-Man and X-Men during the next big thing panel. So I don't know if either you caught any of that.
Right, this is that dark web stuff?
Yes.
Right, so they actually had on the Marvel booth, the backside of the Marvel booth had a dark web, like a sign and artwork on the back of the Marvel booth if you approached it from behind, and you would see it as a big advertisement of this upcoming event.
Okay. Yeah, and I think they also talked about the Fall of X stuff also in this panel. So we get to, I believe, look at this next article, which, nope, that's not it. But yeah, so Dark Web and the Fall of X stuff was also talked about in this in the panel, and upcoming X-Men stuff. Like, so there's a Hallows Eve issue, there's Red Goblin stuff, there's Sins of Sinister also with those the tie-ins that were announced. And let's see, Fall of X, summer of 2023. Oh, and there's also the summer of Symbiotes, which is also next summer. Which I'm not looking forward to that. But just it says here that the Summer of Symbiotes is having to do with Venom, Carnage, and Red Goblin, and more. And the Fall of X event is basically another Hellfire Gala and the X-Men's future stuff.
Didn't we just go through King in Black? Didn't I just go through that? Okay.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. You're never getting away from it, Matt. Sorry.
All with the symbiotes.
I will ask a question before I go.
Okay.
Matt, did you read the Carnage series? I think it ran for about almost 18 issues.
Nope.
It was the one where Carnage gets kidnapped by a bunch of cultists, and then the characters were it was Moonwolf was in it, one of the guys from the Darkhold Redeemers, it was Eddie Brock. I don't know if you're right. So basically, the story was. Do you remember the Tomb of Dracula where Blade was introduced in the 70s?
Right.
They basically did the Tomb of Dracula, but for Carnage, and it was basically it was like it was a focus on the characters hunting him and like this whole rather than just like a bunch of symbiotes fighting, right? And it was pretty. I'm not the biggest Carnage guy, but like that series, it's not that long. Was awesome. It was just it was like reading a TV series.
Mm. Well, funny you should mention Blade because there was an article about that Blade's Daughter series that's like finally coming out.
Yeah,
that is also there. So before we let you go, and I'm probably going to be putting you on the spot with this, but I have to ask this question, or bring this up. Invincible video game officially in the works. Did you have any know anything about that?
I know if you look at what everything Skybound's doing, they have I think great access to development talent, and they have great access to and they've been working on creating their own video games. So obviously with the success of the show, it would make sense that they would be making something.
Okay, KG, I like it.
Did you like my non-answer?
I like it. I appreciate it. I that was a very media trained answer.
Yes.
So I love it. But
yes.
When are you guys going to join me in San Diego one year?
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, really.
Soon.
I can only hope that could happen sometime soon.
Hopefully soon.
That's I can't remember if you were big on Transformers or not.
I am.
Did you see the news about who's playing in that new movie, and did you see any exclusives from the show?
They're pushing Earthspark a lot, like all over the place. I did see the announcement. I am also excited by the new guys. The new guys holding the license for the comic, and I think, and I'm very hopeful for the show because I'm hoping the show will build up a young audience who will love Transformers the way we love them.
Gotcha.
Before Matt goes, I wanted to say that it's interesting that I decided to pull back, obviously in the wake of the pandemic last year. I didn't even try, even though we kind of our tried and true system of getting badges kind of fell through, and we weren't able to get Saturday badges last year. Remember? So. Yeah. I only was able to pick up a Sunday badge last year. So, one day was enough, especially in the first pandemic the first con during the pandemic times. This year, I think because my Sunday was so full of family stuff, I really missed out on a few things that I did want to see. So I'm thinking maybe this coming year I'll try to get, if not a 4-day pass, go back to getting something like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday package where I have an extra day, if not a full day to myself, an extra full day to myself just to walk the floor and see things and maybe scout some things out. I don't know if next year's Sunday might be another family-filled day and it won't be, I just won't be able to do things on my own.
Look, I think you should I think you should either get a Thursday or Friday and walk it Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
Like, we're in a slightly different work world where, you don't have to be at your desk all the time. And if you take a, Javits Center is not that far from our offices.
Right.
So
right.
I'm encouraging him to play hooky.
Of course. But you know what's funny is that it's not even that you have to play hooky, especially on the weeknights, because they're open late. So you don't necessarily have to be there for everything, but just to get the lay of the land. And just to see things, see where things are. There are still things happening in the evening. Because that's what I used to do when I had a 4-day pass, is that I would go Thursday night and then cut out of work Friday early. So I'd be there for half a day, and then Saturday and Sunday. That was my normal schedule for when 4-day passes were the thing. Then when they phased out the 4-day pass, that's when you had to really start to think about, which days you're going to go for. But now that if they keep the 4-day passes, I may plunk down the money for a 4-day pass so I can go back to that, because that seems to be the way I operate the best, is when I have a chance to really get, as Matt did on Thursday, go for part of the days. He missed Friday, but he at least had a chance to know where things were on Thursday, so that when Saturday came, he still had a few things to take care of. And even on Sunday is when he was still working on getting something commissioned on Sunday, same as me. So, we have to use our time as well as we can when we're on the con floor. So, I'm starting to think maybe I next year I'll have to think carefully about getting going back to the 4-day pass. Just because it felt like I missed a lot of stuff this year, but for good reason. Because Sunday was really about like getting together with people I hadn't seen in a while. It was a different experience. It was the first time that's ever happened to me. Most of the time at the con, I run into Matt and like a few other people that are like that were really comic centric people that we both knew growing up, in school. So
yeah, no, same thing. It was hard, Sometimes you're wearing masks. You don't know if you're bumping into people, and I think what's nice about walking around Artist Alley, you do bump into people,
right?
Even when you're wearing a mask.
Yep.
All right, Matt. I know you got to get up going, and we need to finish this up. So, but it's always good to have you, sir.
No, it's always a pleasure to see you guys and chat about shows and news, and as I said, I always like to always share my perspective and hopefully my my comic book knowledge sometimes fits into some of the gaps you guys have. So I always appreciate you letting me amuse myself by doing that.
Of course, man.
Hey, when they get that Stingray Marvel, that Marvel TV show for Stingray out, we're sure to have you on when they announce it.
Don't worry. I already I packaged. I know one of your favorite crossovers was Dead Man's Hand.
Oh no!
The Daredevil, Punisher, and Nomad. So I got all 9 issues for you. I'm sending it over.
Oh my gosh! Well, just make sure that it doesn't require a signature this time. Matt knows. Matt, that is an inside joke between myself and Matt. So,
Yeah. All right.
all right, man, take it easy, Matt. Manhattan is in the house. I didn't have a chance to play that earlier. There he goes.
All right. So as I switch over to here and fix the... Man, what is going on with these views?
Yeah, we are now all out of sorts here, folks, because we had to accommodate our guest tonight.
Yeah, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to continue with the news, actually. So let's
Sure.
So let's back up to the beginning of the comic book news, which was only a couple of before that New York stuff. While I try to fix this stupid Skype thing.
Hey, you know what? You were already having problems, and now we've got then we had a guest to complicate things. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, well, that's part of that I couldn't have accommodated for until until he got on. So there is that.
All right. So do you want me to start with this first comic book story? It's in manga territory, so I will play both a transition for comic book news and what will be played for anime news.
Yeah.
There we go. Gundam manga artist's first female protagonist pitch was rejected due to sexism. Yikes. Before Suletta Mercury, a Gundam manga artist once pitched a female protagonist that was met with a negative reception and ultimately rejected. According to Anime News Network, Koichi Tokita, the manga artist known for his alternate universe series in the franchise, including Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, Mobile Fighter G Gundam, and Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Astray, showered the first episode of Mobile Suit Gundam The Witch from Mercury with praise. In particular, he was pleased that the series had a female protagonist starring in it. In a tweet, he said, "A long time ago, I supported a female Gundam protagonist, but was told that a Gunpla belonging to a female character would not sell. Now we live in an age where we can have a female protagonist, and she has a plastic model too. I think it's great. He's so happy." So good for them. About time.
Yeah, exactly. Next up, let's see. So we have some more. What is happening here? Okay, here we go. So we have talked previously about the death of Yu-Gi-Oh creator Kazuki Takahashi. But what we are recently finding out was that apparently he died trying to save people.
Yikes. Yeah,
so as reported by some site, I guess, from this 49-year-old U.S. Army officer, Major Robert Bourgeau, who apparently has been nominated for a Soldier's Medal for rescuing people during the Riptide at Mermaid's Grotto in Ona, Okinawa on July 4th. It says here, unbeknownst to Bourgeau at the time, the 60-year-old Kazuki Takahashi attempted to aid the rescue before being caught up in the Riptide himself. So, and I guess it came out later that, who was helping and that he died in the course of helping. But this tweet says here is like, he was a hero. Once again, thanks for everything, Takahashi, from the article that mentions this. So, yeah, that's
wow.
That's crazy.
That's tough news, folks.
Yeah. But next up.
All right. One Punch Man artist and more manga favorites are teaming up for a Marvel Comics tribute. So Viz Media announced during New York Comic Con that they will be launching a special new collection dubbed Marvel Comics, a manga tribute, on shelves in the United States sometime in the summer of 2023. There's no release date for the new collection just yet. Viz Media has revealed the first look at these new tributes that showcase new takes on Marvel hero Spider-Man, Black Bolt, Doctor Strange, and Ms. Marvel from some very notable names from the manga world. So that includes One Punch Man's illustrator and Witch Hat Atelier's creator and many more. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that out if when it happens. Yeah, next summer. Excuse me. Namor. Now we're getting into the comic book news. Namor, the Submariner's new Marvel series, introduces Old Man Namor. Now, this is actually for this week's Namor Conquered Shores, which I'm fairly certain neither one of us had a chance to read.
Nope.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a new miniseries from Christopher Cantwell and artist Pasquale Ferry, and finds Namor ruling over the planet over 100 years in the future. However, one change to the Marvel Universe is the majority of Earth is now underwater, which takes advantage to someone who thrives underwater. So I'm kind of wondering, is this like supposedly after or around the whole Wasteland stuff? Or, I mean, I don't even know if that's the same history, same future or not.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see if that tracked along with that Old Man Logan timeline.
Right. So... But but this article gives a preview of Namor Conquered Shores by the creative team, and with Matt Hollingsworth on colors, and VC's Joe Caramagna to round out the creative team. But yeah, if you
our favorite lettering Python,
yes, with that. Next up, though.
The Guardians of the Galaxy set out to rebuild their family. A new Guardians of the Galaxy comic is headed to a galaxy near you in spring of 2023. So, as revealed at the Marvel Comics Next Big Thing panel during New York Comic Con this past week, a new Guardians of the Galaxy comic book series will launch in spring 2023. Stay tuned in the months ahead for more info. Okay.
Yeah, there wasn't really a whole lot about that outside of the picture that, if you're watching the video version, you can see, and the tag underneath it. So I'm quite interested as a Guardians fan of what the whole thing is about.
It makes sense. They'll probably do it in sometime deep in the winter where they will announce the creative team.
Right. Yeah. And going to back up one quick second just to kind of give, because I know we touched upon it, but Marvel gives Blade's daughter her first ever solo series. And this was...
Oh, that's why I skipped that, right? That's why I skipped that.
I know, but I think I want to see if it says, I think the creative team is on this, or I might be wrong about that. Okay. No, but we do have a release date. So, but yeah, this came out during the New York, and all we have looks like so far is that it's Blade's daughter, which her name is Brielle Brooks, and the title of the book is called Bloodline, Daughter of Blade, and it is coming out. It's going to be released February 2023, because we didn't get to say that part earlier.
Got it.
All right, next up.
All right, Marvel Comics announced a new limited series starring the Silver Surfer, Norrin Radd, and a mysterious force at New York Comic Con. So this was announced during the Marvel's Voices, The World Outside Your Window panel. And this is going to release in 2023 from writer John Jennings, artist Valentine DeLandro, and cover artist Torrin Clark. Let's see here. I'm looking for a release date. Oh no, there's no specific release date, but they talk about the general gist of the story, in that there is an earthbound character and a family that moves into a quiet town of Sweetwater, but nothing is what it seems with their new home. What mystery did Tony, that's the main character, and her family unravel that would call upon the Sentinel of the Spaceways, the Silver Surfer? This sounds somewhat Dan Slott's run, but hopefully it's going to be very different.
Yeah, and given the intro of this new character, I suspect it would be, because while we did get Dawn out of that series, we're getting, I guess, a whole new hero out of this one, looks like. So,
interesting.
Yeah, let's see, that was the...
Well, we get the return of Toomey, maybe.
One can only hope. We talked about the Summer of Symbiote stuff and the Fall of X stuff. Those are the events that are coming. The Ronin strikes back in Marvel Star Wars Visions #1, which I don't think you read either. Neither one of us read. Yeah, so Lucasfilm's critically acclaimed Disney Plus anime anthology series Star Wars Visions introduced the world to the mysterious Ronin and his loyal droid R5-D56. As seen in Kamikaze Duga's The Duel, the Ronin saved a sleepy village from the menacing Sith, yet himself wields a crimson lightsaber, raising questions about his past and true nature, just in case you forgot, the crux of that story. So it says here, in a new story written and illustrated by Takahashi Okazaki, one of the artists behind The Duel, Marvel's Studios Vision's one-shot finds the Ronin before he arrived in a small town to face an agent of the dark side. And then the article goes on to a preview of the book, which again, that book came out this week. So if you haven't picked it up yet and you want to check out the previews, go for it in this article in the show notes. Next up.
All right. New on the Marvel Unlimited app, a casual cruise through space takes a wild turn in Marvel's Voices Nova Infinity comic number 20. Nova, Sam Alexander, and Vision investigate a stalled-out spacecraft only to get dragged into an intergalactic planetary battle of identity, choice, and integrity. Okay, so this is available now on the Marvel Unlimited app.
Yep. Next up, Black Panther. Memphis writer pens new Panther's Rage adventure for Marvel. So this is an article speaking with and talking to the writer of I think it's a new prose book, Sherry Renee Thomas, on Black Panther, Panther's Rage. Yes, it is a 325-page hardcover novel that is actually out. No, it's been out actually. It came out October 11th, which was a couple of days ago. From Titan Books and Penguin Random House, and the article goes on to talk to the writer of the book about it and herself. Next up.
Alrighty, She-Hulk. Attorney at Law finally gets a She-Hulk Funko Pop. I didn't realize that there's a lag, I guess. I thought they already had some.
For the show? Yeah, I'm not. I guess that maybe this might be some more. Because I thought the same thing.
Right. So the She-Hulk Attorney at Law Funko Pop featured in this article features Jennifer Walters in her sparkly glitter gala dress and is available for pre-order at Entertainment Earth. So it follows a pop figure of the villain Titania. And okay. I guess there's also an Abomination, a Wong. And there's a Jen Walters and Nikki Ramos as well as a Hulk, a Mark Ruffalo Hulk in a different outfit as well.
Yep. I guess potential spoilers for something, possibly, but probably not. New York Public Library's special edition Spider-Man library card is now available.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get mine this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know somebody else who's up that way who's said he was going to get it. I meant to ask him if they got it or not. But,
I haven't gotten it yet. I have to make my way to a public library. What's fun in New York is that you don't have to be a resident of New York City or of the boroughs to get a particular public library card, but you do have to get a specific library card for Manhattan and the Bronx because Brooklyn and Queens have their own library systems.
Gotcha.
So I have a Brooklyn public library card and I have a New York public library card. So for Manhattan. So I plan on stopping by a library branch, if not tomorrow, at the latest Monday, to try to get a Spidey card to replace. It's just a replacement,
right?
You replace your card with the Spidey card.
Yeah, the fact that Spidey's on it has very little bearing. You needed to replace the card anyway, right? Yeah,
exactly. I need a new one. I got. They expire, so I got to see if mine is expired. I think I renewed mine last year, so I think it's okay for like another. I think it's like every 2 years.
Really?
But something like that.
I don't. Yeah, maybe I need to check mine then. But I don't know if it applies otherwise because I don't think.
I haven't used mine in ages. So.
And neither have I. I use it for like Hoopla and stuff, but I don't really use it to go there to the library.
I haven't used mine online either for a long time, so it's kind of sad.
Yeah, well, busy. So, but hey, guess what, folks? Local library, you can check it. I would love it if they had something like this come here, but I understand why they did it there, obviously.
Right. It's just that my reading habits, my prose reading habits have gotten into the, I'll put something down and then once I pick it up, I won't stop. Right. But if you do that with the library book, it's like, well, I got to return this now.
Right. Yeah, you don't
So
want to
I
end up
know
like
that's
Peter.
that's supposed to be an incentive for reading, but it doesn't always work.
Right. You don't want to be like Peter in that Amazing Fantasy 1000-ish story.
Right.
So next up, though, Magic the Gathering reprints The Power of Nine for the first time in in this 30th anniversary set. This is something I think I forgot to do from last week, but basically, if you know Magic the Gathering and you know that card, then you know what that's about. But this is not the only reprint it's getting. There's it's going to be a pack of 15, which comprises of 13 with modern frame and one retro art card and one token. And it kind of goes on to the rarities of so on and so on, which I would not bore folks with. But one card that is going to be in the set is going to be the iconic Black Lotus, and if you definitely know that card, then you know what that means, what that deals in. So, yeah, that's a big card there. Next up, though.
Okay, so you know what? I never thought that you could redo dice in the form of a coin, but apparently there's a Kickstarter you can now support to get some new dice that basically resemble a coin that you flip, and they range from a D4 to a D20. The coins are made from a durable zinc alloy and each have a special channel machine tooled where a small ball bearing rolls towards the number you rolled, and each side of the coin contains half the total number possibilities. You know, that's tough to describe, but you're going to have to watch the video on the Kickstarter page to really see how that works in action. So,
right. Yeah, if you're watching the video version, as you should do sometimes, you can see an image of the cards. I mean, of the the dice coins in question.
Right, and if you go to our show notes, you can follow the link to the actual Kickstarter page, and maybe you'll have a chance to see how that works.
Yeah. They're cool looking. I'm like, you're right. Like you, Age of 7. I was like, I'd never expected to see something like that. Speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, though, Dungeons and Dragons movie is getting 2 prequel novels. Let's see. It says here that prequel novels penned by E.K. Johnson and Jalea Johnson. E.K. Johnston and Jalea Johnson, respectively. The books are called The Druid's Call and The Road to Neverwinter, again, respectively. Druid's Call will follow Sophia Lillis's character from the film, Doric, a tiefling druid that we saw in the trailer, if you remember that. And the less is known about Johnson's The Road to Neverwinter, but I suspect if you have any any recollection or affinity for Neverwinter, you probably can understand where that's going to go. But next up,
new Dungeons and Dragons AAA game in development at Dark Alliance Studio. So it's also rebranded from Tuque Games to Invoke Studios. That's the developer behind Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance.
Yeah.
So as reported by Polygon, this is a new game being developed in Unreal Engine 5 and will be a quote AAA game derived from the Dungeons and Dragons universe. So this is like open world stuff.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah, because the last one was basically like a dungeon crawler, and they needed to rebrand that studio because the game had so much promise, but yeah, it kind of fell short. There's no release date on this yet, but as it was saying, probably won't be until 2020, probably next year or 2024 at the latest. But next up, though, DC teases major Shazam changes and a monstrous Martian Manhunter development. See, there's some teaser artwork that sees Shazam, Billy Batson, bursting out of the Rock of Eternity, where he's been holed up for the current time. Hovering to the right of him is Mary Marvel, who has since taken up the powers of Shazam, while Billy has been away in DC's The New Champion of Shazam. Which, now that I think about it, I need to catch up on that. On Billy's left is Yara Flor, DC's new Wonder Woman, or I think at this point, Wonder Girl, I think they meant to say. While a monstrous-looking Martian Manhunter hangs below. As featured below, there are creatures that appear to be part of the Trench, which I believe that's from Aquaman. Heroes Transform teaser text read. Secrets revealed, powers unleashed. More information during a panel that has already happened at New York Comic Con. So, and you can see the poster right there. Next up.
All right, DC's Jim Lee and Friends panel at New York Comic Con was full of news and reveals. So Mark Silvestri was up first, talking about his upcoming buddy cop horror story, Batman / The Joker, The Deadly Duo, which is set to launch November 1st, 2022. So that's only a couple of weeks away. We've started to see advanced solicits for that. So we'll look forward to that. Next up, John Ridley John Ridley joined the panel to talk with Jim Lee about his body of work. And he's going to have an upcoming limited series titled GCPD The Blue Wall, debuting October 18th. So that's next week, 2022. All right. And Spencer Ackerman is going to be building the wall in a new DC Black Label series. And let's see, Nicholas Draper Ivy and Vita Ayala return Static to Dakota in 2023. It's going to debut on February 7th, 2023 in Static Season 1, Static Shadows of Dakota. That's cool.
So that was actually supposed to come out this last week.
Oh, really? So they pushed it on until
it's going to be this week.
February.
Yeah.
They pushed it until February. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's unfortunate, but if they're pushing it for, I don't know if they're pushing it for Black History Month or not.
Possibly. I have no idea. I don't remember
But
seeing
you know what I mean? It's unfortunate that they would push it that far, just that, you know?
Right. There might have been something that was going on, but I don't remember it, or seen anything about that.
Right. They had an early look at new titles celebrating Milestone's 30th anniversary in 2023. Wow, 30 years.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm getting too old for this shit.
Let's see. Special guest Joe Quesada revealed details on his return to DC. So, unfortunately, right after he took the stage, Joe Quesada came, basically self-diagnosed and got tested for COVID, and he tested positive.
Oh,
so
no.
he was not right. So he was not at the show, even though he had a booth in Artist Alley for the rest of the time there. But he did show up for this Jim Lee panel. Quesada left Marvel earlier this year to pursue his own personal projects, and he's been designing he's been announced that he'd be designing covers for DC titles in 2023, revealing his variant cover for Batman 131 set for January 3rd, 2023, and Batman 132 set for February 7th, 2023. So yeah, that was a little unfortunate news from Quesada, but what he did do was he had his agent collect things that people wanted signed, and he ended up signing them remotely, and then the agent brought them back the next day, or brought them back later that day.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, it was very unfortunate that he came down with COVID like right there.
Right.
I'll tell you one thing that Matt and I did not talk about at New York Comic Con was that, according to some of the attendees I talked to, mask usage was like in the 80th percentile, like Thursday, and it starts to go down every day after that. So on Saturday when I was there, it was probably like in the upper 60s. By the time Sunday came around, even I had my mask off most of the time. I had it on sometimes when I was like in a really congested area.
Mm-hmm.
If I was close to the doors, I had it off because the doors were constantly opening and shutting with air circulating.
Okay.
Towards the front doors. And obviously, I was outside for a lot of Saturday in the cosplay area, so I didn't have my mask on at all.
Right.
But when I was inside, I had it on. So I was definitely not as observant of the mask thing as time went on. But, it's a shame that people are still coming down with COVID, around the con.
Yeah, that's going to be a place that's going to breed. It's going to breed, so.
Yep. All right, so we have spillover, right?
Yeah, I was going to say there's an Icon versus Hardware event that's going to happen next year, and I think Ridley's writing one of those Batman One Bad Day books for the Penguin. Around the Penguin. But yeah, DC Comics reveals new direction in this Superman line in 2023. So because Kal-El's back. Excuse me. Action Comics is continuing its classic numbering system. Philip Kennedy Thomas Johnson is going to continue to write the lead story. The John Kent book, I believe, is ending to be rebranded as Superman John Kent. And let's see. They're going to reintroduce Power Girl to the DCU in a 3-part backup story from Action Comics that spins out of the Lazarus Planet crossover. Dan Jurgens and Lee Weeks, who introduced Lois and Clark's son John in 2015, will reunite for a backup story called Lois and Clark 2 Doom Rising. That will take place when John was still a child and his parents were living anonymously on the farm. I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, they got some Superman stuff coming next year. Next up.
Apparently, no, Dark Crisis didn't lie. The Justice League is really dead.
In a certain manner of speaking.
I mean, it's comics, folks.
Yeah.
The following contains spoilers for Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, number 5 on sale now from DC Comics. I think that's out this week.
Yep. I guess so, yeah.
Right, so the death of the Justice League, the event that kicked off the Dark Crisis, was not exactly something readers believed, but apparently, they actually did die, but, that's probably not permanent. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and some of these characters have died before, and they've been back. So,
Exactly. You're not going to go into all the details and the spoilers, so, they will return, though.
Yeah. DC slashes print to digital release window with new subscription tier. So the DC announced that DC Universe Infinite Ultra, which is the newest tier to its digital subscription service, will provide fans with comics that go up 1 month after they go on sale at comic shops. Which I thought comic shops had beef with that whole thing in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's curious that's going to happen. But let's see, a month after release, they're coming out, allowing them to enjoy comics on their favorite device sooner. Ultra subscribers will all receive a copy of The Death of Superman 30th Anniversary Deluxe Edition with an exclusive cover by renowned artist Ivan Reyes while supplies last. The exclusive cover will not be available anywhere else. In addition, Ultra subscribers will have access to an exclusive library of titles from DC Vertigo, Black Label, and collected editions beginning in mid-November. The introductory price for Ultra is $99, and has already launched apparently on October 10th. Which if I've gotten any word on that, then I don't remember seeing anything. But then again, I've ignored a lot of emails lately, so there is that. So. Next up,
we have a preview of Scarlet Sisters one-shot from Dynamite Entertainment. This is released this week, October 12th. It's written by Alex Segura with artist Emiliana Pina. The cover is by Joseph Michael Linsner of Dawn fame. It's a 40-page book, and it is out now. And you can click through the gallery that's on this website for a full preview.
The Power Rangers officially retiring its original 90s Red Ranger. So this is spoilers for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 100, which came out last week. Basically, the Rangers got into a whole scuffle with the Death Ranger, of which apparently some Rangers got infected by, Jason the Red Ranger being one of them, and ended up let's just say whatever happened from there, which I did read, but I'm not going to go into, caused him to have to retire from being a Ranger. Probably has nothing to do with the real life actor's legal trouble, I'm sure. Next up.
Okay, that's some inside baseball Power Ranger stuff right there.
Well, no, we talked about it, but yeah, it was
right.
A while ago.
I don't remember it though.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah, no. Power Ranger stuff. I'm just like,
Awesome! Wow!
So anyway, Chris Cantwell and Angel Unzueta expand IDW Star Trek continuity with Star Trek Defiant. Could it be? So early this year, IDW revealed it was building an expansive, accessible Star Trek universe of comic book continuity. So IDW announced that in March 2023, they're going to launch Star Trek Defiant, an ongoing series that sees the fan favorite Worf assembling a handpicked crew to face a galaxy-spanning threat. Cool. Described as the Dirty Dozen meets Star Trek.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be here for it.
All right. So this is parallel to some other Ben Sisko stuff.
Oh,
because
Ben
Sisko is in charge of the USS Theseus. Okay.
So this is probably in parallel to that Star Trek #1 book, which is the multiversal book that's coming out, because Worf also has looks like a multiversal crew going on here. It appears.
Okay. Interesting.
So that's probably what it is. Yeah.
Oh, everybody wants to jump on the multiverse bandwagon now.
Well, I mean, they've been doing it for a minute with that whole.
I know, but you know what I mean, like in the comics too. You know.
Yeah.
Like we're used to seeing it in the TV shows, but I guess I'm not a fan of Star Trek comic books, so I'm not as familiar with seeing it in print. But I guess it's been there for a long time.
Oh wait, no, it looks like the Ben Sisko thing is a part of this here book. So, but I'm guessing it might still have something to do with some multiversal, but I might be wrong. But with that, I know that Star Trek book is definitely a multiversal thing, where that mirror universe stuff is probably still kind of going. Actually, now that I think about it. All right, we're gonna circle back to cinematic news. With David Tennant and Catherine Tate's Doctor Who return was an accident apparently, and according to this article, Tennant said that at the start of the COVID pandemic, he, Tate, and former Doctor Who showrunner Russell T Davies took part of Doctor Who Lockdown, a series wherein they would rewatch episodes of the long-running sci-fi series as a way to pass the time. And according to this article, David Tennant says that's where it all started. At a certain time in the day, everyone would press play on a certain episode. Y'all know how that stuff goes. It's watch along. You know how it goes. And from that, I guess they got the idea of bringing back Tennant and Tate for the reunion in 2023, along with as their roles. So, check that out. If you're a Who fan, you already know about this, and Giddy is a cool kid. Next up.
Okay, so this past Saturday, the BBC released the trailer for Jodie Whittaker's final Doctor Who, The Power of the Doctor. The Doctor Who Centenary Special is Whittaker's final episode starring the 13th Doctor, and we'll see Whittaker regenerating into Ncuti Gatwa's 14th Doctor. The BBC revealed the new trailer, which sees multiple mysteries afoot involving the Master, the Daleks, and the Cybermen. Whittaker previously said that the 90-minute special will be one longtime Doctor Who fans can appreciate. Okay, it's for the Whovians, and you know what I have to say to that?
Awesome! Wow!
For a minute, I thought you was about to say who. Because somehow that still works.
Right, that one is the nice sarcastic one.
Yes. Rings of Power Morphid Clark credits Incredible Horses for episode 6 stunt work. Apparently, the actress that plays Galadriel describes the preparation that went into the monumental horseback battle sequence of the 6 episodes. Spoiler alert, I guess. And she says that I cannot believe that was possible. Before doing this, I thought so much of horse stunts were CGI, but wasn't. I suspect from this recent episode, I hope there's one thing that happened in this recent episode was some CGI, because there was just one horse that kind of got it, or was getting it. So, and not getting it in, I'm saying it was a bad time for that horse. Anyhow, but it just goes on from there. So apparently, no horses were harmed in the making of that stunt.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think we ever have to worry about that stuff.
No,
accidents happen, but yeah.
Right.
Like if it's something that's called for in the script, yeah, no horses were probably harmed in that.
Right, but it was like they were well trained and everything was choreographed. nicely and well. So next up.
Mm-hmm. So why nobody can actually say Mordor yet in the Rings of Power? Oh, God. So, we all know, and this is spoilers for Lord of the Rings of Power, as we spoke about earlier. One cool thing, and I'm going to ring the spoiler bell here, is that, none of the characters in the show actually say the word yet, because it probably doesn't exist yet, but it does appear on screen.
Yes, that does happen. So I'm pretty sure it will get around at some point very soon.
Yep, pretty soon. I love that. As soon as they pulled back that shot and it said the Southlands and then the text changed, I was like, oh!
Oh, so this is out there, yeah, because you just saw a dude looking away just pensively into the distance, and then you just see Southlands turn.
Exactly.
The thing, I wanted them to say it, though, honestly. I just wanted them to say, no, we should call this Mordor.
Right.
Or something like, I don't know. But it was still a good reveal. The Rings of Power just teed up in the apocalyptic future of the Lord of the Rings. That's being nice about it, I guess. I love the tag here, and they called it a mine. I say that a lot. I don't know why.
You just love quoting Gimli.
I do, especially that one, because every time I've been playing Minecraft lately, so it's been working out well for that also.
A mine.
So yeah.
And my response will always be, should I get you a box? Would you like me to describe it for you, or shall I fetch you a box?
Nice. So yeah, but this is basically kind of spoilers for episode 7, which is the most recent episode as of this recording. We won't. Well, I mean, it's a week old at this point, but basically, hey, guess what? There's more about a certain substance that gets mined up and what they potentially find. Also, in the finding of this mineral. And that's all I'll say about that. But if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, yeah, just like we told Matt earlier, when that part comes, you'll be like, oh, okay. That's next up.
Right. So apparently at New York Comic Con, Amazon Prime revealed the trailer for the season 1 finale of the Lord of the Rings of Power. The finale is coming next week. So guess what? It's all going to be revealed. The trailer teased the rise of Mordor and offered a glimpse at what appears to be Celebrimbor's forge, where the legendary Rings of Power will eventually be forged. So it was also announced that Felicia Day will be hosting the official The Lord of the Rings of Power podcast for Amazon Music. It will consist of 8 episodes that will include interviews with creator J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, along with members of the cast. They're a little late on that. The House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, they have, weekly podcasts out now. They shouldn't have waited until the series is over to have these podcasts.
Well, this season, because we know they're getting a couple of more seasons. So, yeah, it is, but still, to your point, you're right. It's
kind of late.
Yeah. So, I guess they wanted to get on the ground for second season or something. Or maybe they were taping. I don't know.
For whatever reason, they're late. That's it. Yeah. That's all we can say. Whether or not they have a reason for it is up for speculation, but they're a little bit behind the ball on that, because I would say that Game of Thrones set the standard by having, I think they've had several unofficial podcasts and now official podcasts for Game of Thrones come out like the evening of or the day after the show.
And we know that there already have been unofficial podcasts for this, and pretty much every other appointment TV show of late. And so that's not big news. But
but having an official one, it's kind of it's late. Go ahead.
Right. But the podcast is going to air, to just kind of slightly correct Agent 70, not next week, but
today. The podcast debuts today. Well, today because of our late recording. I just scrolled down, so I would have seen it eventually. The podcast debuts on October 14th, the same day as the season 1 finale.
Right, which we have just crossed just a little behind the scenes. We're across the midnight mark now, so in a couple of hours the finale will have debuted. Live podcasting, folks. The Legend of Vox Machina renewed for season 3, which I've seen people online talking about. Where's season 2? So
got me.
Yeah, so this was announced at New York Comic Con. Prime Video announced that the 3rd season of The Legend of Vox Machina, which is, the Critical Role folks in animated form. It says here that the season was already renewed for a 2nd season, which is going to be coming in January 2023, apparently. And a 3rd season was already announced, which obviously is kind of early just to tell when it's coming, but it's coming. Next up.
Paramount Plus has dropped the first teaser trailer for its upcoming supernatural series Wolfpack, which comes from writer and executive producer Jeff Davis and stars Sarah Michelle Gellar. Let's see here. Release date.
She just can't stay away from supernatural stuff, I guess.
Yeah, release date. The series will premiere on Paramount Plus on Thursday, January 26th, which is the same day as Teen Wolf, the movie. Okay.
Coincidence? Probably not.
Probably not. Next up.
Yeah. Bink. Titans. HBO Max debuts Teen Titans Go's villain Jinx in live action form, apparently. Shared on Instagram with the caption, "Question everything you thought you knew." DC's Titans offered a first look at how Jinx will appear in the 4th season of the series. Also included was a concept art for the character, who will be portrayed in the series by Lisa Ambarvala. I had this right earlier. Ambalavanar. My apologies for butchering your name. I tried to practice it. Next up.
Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy are reuniting for a Valentine's Day special next year. The 3rd season of the adult animated Harley Quinn concluded early this year. And this is in advance of the renewed 4th season. So this is going to debut in February 2023. This it's titled Harley Quinn, A Very Problematic Valentine's Day Special. And it's going to return the familiar voice cast to the show.
Speaking of returning people to things that they probably shouldn't be in this case, Ezra Miller returns for Flash reshoots after apologizing to Warner Brothers because we saw it happening. So the wrap-up reports that Miller arrived on the Warner Brothers site not near the beginning of October to shoot a day of pickups. The news comes several weeks after Miller apologized to the studio heads in person, acknowledging blah blah blah. Who cares? He shouldn't be on this film, and they shouldn't be doing this. But they're standing behind this stupid ass.
Yeah,
and that doesn't make any kind of sense.
True enough. Okay, Patty Jenkins hints that Wonder Woman 3 may not be the last in the saga. It was intended to be the last in a trilogy, but there apparently may be more in the future. So she was speaking at the Matera Film Festival, and she intended to do just 1 movie, and she ended up planning a 3-movie arc, and she'd be interested to see what happens next. So interesting.
Yeah. Stranger Things star Caleb McLaughlin would love to be DCEU's Static Shock. So apparently he was at Q&A at Heroes Comic Con in Brussels and says that I would love to play Static Shock. Honestly, I would want to do something like a superhero or even something. It doesn't matter. Really open to being any character. I feel like I could play anybody, honestly. And he kind of goes on from there. Obviously, this is him putting his bid for that. Good luck to him, I guess. Because as far as I know, that Static Shock movie is still kind of coming at some point, but we don't know when because we haven't really gotten too much more news about it. Next up.
Warner Brothers TV Group lays off 82 staffers, consolidates some unscripted and animation departments in belt-tightening restructure. So, not good. It's 26% of the division's total workforce.
Yeah, I've seen some Rip Cartoon Network posts going around lately also. So that's never a good thing.
Not good.
Yeah, Star Trek Universe, the New York Comic Con 2022 panel reveals teasers for Picard Season 3, Discovery Season 5, and Prodigy, I think Season 2 or 3, I don't remember. But yeah, so Star Trek Picard's third and final season set to premiere on February 16th, 2023. There was a teaser trailer with most of the old cast and the introduction to the villains of the show. One being Amanda Plummer's character as the villain is Vedic, and also Brent Spiner's lore re-shows back up apparently. Which now that I'm thinking about it, makes a whole lot of sense. Jodie Forger's daughters will be joining their father on Picard. Excuse me, their father Picard and the rest of the Next Generation crew on the final mission. As Mika Burton and Cruel Summers, Ashley Sharp Chestnut will take on the roles of Ensign Alondra LaForge and Ensign Sydney LaForge, respectively. Also, let's see, Discovery Season 5 got a trailer, like I said, and Star Trek's Prodigy was going to return Thursday, October 27th. Season 5 of Discovery sometime in 2023. Next up.
All right, in some, it's nothing new when projects get shuffled around, but it's always news when Marvel has to postpone some movies. So Disney Marvel have announced that a shakeup to their release calendar that was just set earlier this summer. So first up, Mahershala Ali's Blade has moved to September 6th, 2024, back from its November 3rd, 2023 date, almost a full year. Obviously, we've heard news of filmmaker Bassam Tariq leaving the project 2 weeks before it's set to start filming, so they're off looking for a new director, so it makes sense that they would push back the movie. The untitled Deadpool 3 movie is moving to November 8th, 2024, back from September 6th, 2024, just a span of a few months. Fantastic Four has been pushed back several months to February 14th, 2025, back from November 8th, 2024. Avengers Secret Wars, the culmination of Marvel's multiverse saga, has moved to May 1st, 2026, back from November 7th, 2025. The crossover event is in search of a director, and its move means Marvel no longer has two Avengers films debuting just 6 months apart. Avengers The Kang Dynasty remains on the docket for its original May 2nd, 2025 date. Disney also made several changes to other releases on its calendar, with Searchlight's Chevalier dated for April 7th, 2023. And some other movies, but outside of our purview. And the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movie, the latest in that franchise, is now being slotted for May 24th, 2024.
Yeah. Joe Manganiello to co-direct a Dungeons and Dragons documentary, apparently, because we've heard he's a big unless that's changed because it says it's co-direct. Yeah. Anyway, according to the Hollywood Reporter, a documentary feature about the enduring tabletop role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons is in the works at Entertainment One, a division of Hasbro, so it's in-house. The documentary is expected to coincide with D&D's 50th anniversary in 2024. The aforementioned Manganiello is attached to co-direct, like I said, co-direct, the film with Kyle Newman. Joe Man is a big D&D buff, which who'd have thunk it?
He's a giant D&D buff. His wife hates it. Sofia Vergara hates it.
Oh, that's right. He is married to her. I forgot about that. So yeah.
I've heard her in like various interviews say, "Oh, he goes into his dungeon." I don't think she calls it a dungeon, but into the basement where all his gaming stuff is set up. So it's pretty funny. All right, next up, Red Sonja reboot reveals first look at Matilda Lutz's Badass Warrior. So the long gestating endeavor to reboot Red Sonja has finally come to the table with a substantive reveal showcasing star Matilda Lutz in crimson-haired glory. Okay, so if you're looking at this article now, you'll see a picture of the character in armor and red hair.
So there you go.
Cool.
Michelle Yeoh, Pete Davidson joined Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Yeoh will provide the voice of Airazor, and Davidson, I don't really care, but apparently he's voice Mirage, who's a D-Roy character. If you did not know that, I don't know. Unless they're doing another take with it, but if they got that scumbag with doing it, I guess it will be. So, yeah, June 9th, 2023 is when that's going to happen. Next.
Black Clover has finally revealed the first full look at the debut feature film, and the first new project has introduced a new character who's actually a former Wizard King named Conrad. Okay. So, you know what? I just realized Black Clover is not on my list of anime. And one of my friend's kids, one of his elder daughters, was cosplaying as a character from Black Clover. And I asked, is it good? And she said, yeah. I said, well, I'll add it to my list. Is there some reason why I haven't added it yet? Or have you not watched it before?
I have not watched Black Clover. I have heard things about. I have heard some decent things about it, but I've never watched it myself.
All right, I added it to my list, so I just wanted to say that.
If anybody else outside of that in your anime council didn't say anything about it, I don't know. I guess that says something, but I don't know.
Yeah, it just might not be in everybody's purview. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. So, but by the way, we are in anime corner. So, yeah. Which he already did the thing, so it's all good.
Yep.
My Hero Academia season 6 sets English dub release date, and that date is October 15th, which, guess what? That's a day from this recording. So, which I know, but if you are, I'm not going to tell you how to watch your anime, but if you're watching the subs, you're a good person. Okay. Next up.
All right. I think this is our last news item.
Mm-hmm.
Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War, that is, trailer shows off the new captains. So I believe this was revealed at New York Comic Con.
This was, and that has also started this week.
Ah, well, I've never watched the first parts of Bleach, so no watching this 1,000-Year War stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while if you ever get to the point to where you could watch this.
Right.
Hell, I need to catch up because I totally forgot what happened in the first part, and I'm we're not even finished of it. So, but yeah, it's out there. It's already started. So for those who are watching is watching it. And with that, folks, we are going to go briskly into the books of the week.
Yes, we're transitioning into this week's books, folks. We have been at this for a while. We're going to get a quick ad read in right now. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Our first ad of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron. Always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we're transitioning actually into comic books. Yeah, I was about to say we're transitioning into comic books, and I'm going to spin up the rapid fire books. So here we go.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Just doubling up. I love it. So go ahead and start up, and I'll chime in whenever.
Sure. So first up for me is Batman vs. Robin number 2 of 5. It's written by Mark Waid with art by Mahmoud Asrar, colors by Jordi Belair, and letters by Steve Wands. In short, Damian is deep in the middle of teenage angst and rebellion, but he may be under the influence of a very magical being, a magical foe that once took Batman and Superman to the brink before Batman and Superman were able to imprison him. But now this villain has returned, and there's a lot of magic abounding. Magic users, magic characters. It's one of the few blind spots, obviously, that Batman really can't deal with.
Okay, so this is basically coming off of Batman Superman World's Finest, which is recent.
Right. That as well as that Lazarus, that Damien. Exactly. Yeah. That whole tournament thing. So it's all tied in together.
Okay.
Next up is AXE Death to the Mutants number 3 of 3. So this is the last issue in this little mini-series. It's written by Kieron Gillen with art by Guiu Villanova, colors by Alex Guillemets and Eric Arciniega, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So this is basically filling in, continuing to fill in the path that the joint mutant and Eternal team are taking through. Wait, hold on. I may be confusing these things, so let me pull up my copy of this.
I think you might be thinking of Eternals.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Eternals because that is the trial of Ajax. Let's see. Death of the Mutants, pulling this up. Here we go. Right. So this is... Sorry, folks. Oh no! So this is again, given some of the disjointed, slightly out of order publishing of these AXE tie-in books, we're getting some fill-in of some of the events of the main miniseries, which is a good thing, to be honest, because if you don't necessarily need to read these tie-ins to get the gist of the story, that's actually, I think, a good thing for the people who just want to get that story of the miniseries to get the gist of what's going on. But here we're getting some fill-in of what's happening to the Eternals, as well as some of the things happening at as plans are being hatched to deal with the progenitor. With some of the story gets filled in, with Cap and Nightcrawler in Immortal X-Men this week. We'll talk about that in a minute. We get some stuff here with Phastos, because he is actively working against the progenitor and the machine that is Earth. And so, there's plenty of stuff going on here to fill in some of the gaps in the story. You have anything to add?
No, not really.
Okay. Next up, we have AXE Eternals number 1. It's written by Kieron Gillen with art by Pasquale Ferry, colors by Matt Hollingsworth, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. This follows that troupe of X-Men, Avengers, and Eternals as they make their way through the body of the progenitor to try to shut the progenitor down. And in the course of this, Ajax runs into her test, and it is a very extended sequence of Ajax basically proving that she is willing to move forward in faith as a priest of the Eternals. Anything to add?
Nope.
Alrighty, next up is Amazing Spider-Man number 11. It's written by Zeb Wells, pencils by John Romita Jr., inks by Scott Hanna, colors by Marcio Meniz, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna, our favorite lettering paisan. So, the cover of this issue really does hint at what we're going to see in the issue. It's the return of the Hobgoblin, but which one is exactly the question posed in this issue, as posed on the cover. So it's one of those times when the cover really does clue you in as to what's happening in the issue. So again, we still don't know what on earth Peter Parker actually did to deserve all the hate that he is receiving, but we also see some other characters pop up that we haven't seen in a while, like Ned Leeds, Betty Brant, showing up. They play a role in this issue. We also see Kamala kind of being a grown-up intern. She's on the testing floor of Oscorp. With Peter Parker as they're testing out a rocket engine. So that's pretty interesting. We have some new developments between Felicia Hardy and Spider-Man. So that was actually a pretty interesting little interlude. And we get... I'm sorry. And we get...
agree.
Right. And we get, as I said, we get Ned coming back, as well as Norman not telling Peter the truth about all of his dealings. So we get the idea that maybe Norman's not what we think he is. And we have the return of one Roderick Kingsley. And if you remember that name, you are old. So,
yes.
So bottom line here is we have at the end of the issue, during the issue and at the end of the issue, we basically get the appearance of an or a hobgoblin, depending on how grammatically correct you want to be.
Right, and given the names that have already been thrown out, it's intentionally anybody's guess as to which one it is.
Exactly.
Also worth noting that the cover, if you're watching the video version, you will see that the hobgoblin head is being held by potentially another character that's going to come back into play from recent Spider-Man. So I guess that's going to be a thing.
Yep.
But yeah.
Next up is Black Panther number 10. It's written by John Ridley with art by Herman Peralta, colors by Jesus Bertov, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So I have not been shy about being somewhat displeased with the course of this book after the Civil War was kind of resolved in Wakanda. So we're getting a little bit of follow-up on that, as well as this kind of weird story with these weird aliens that come up and they tap into some historical context that I know John really wants to, explore and essentially teach T'Challa about. That's kind of what this issue serves to do. And, there's a bit of a history lesson here, as well as, a study on T'Challa's current state of mind, as well as his well-being, given that, there's some doubts now whether or not he can continue to be the chairperson of the Avengers. So that seems to be where this story fits into the greater scheme of things. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, it's curious. Like you said, there is some history that T'Challa, and I guess by proxy the audience, if they did not know or learn about a character and or historical figure, I guess.
Historical group, right? A historical group.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying.
I would say, hold on to your thought. I would say that it's referenced in a Bob Marley song.
Yes, indeed. But also, I noticed Ridley uses at the very least, the name or a variation of a name of I would go so far as to call him a dictator in the telling of this character, of this group's characters, or at least in the world that this character's group is coming from. Or let me rephrase that. There is the use of an actual figure's name, or at least a variation of an actual figure's name, in the telling of this story, and used as an antagonist to a character in this story. There we go. That's better. But also comes in with the history lesson that is being learned about this historical group.
Right.
So that I found that kind of interesting playing in here, even though coming into the story from that last issue still seems kind of crazy, but I guess it was in service of getting to this point.
Right. It's to serve, to try to. I don't know if it's to portray T'Challa as being in a, kind of a broken or bad place. Mm-hmm. Because that's one of the things that this issue ends on, is that he has experienced a lot of loss, and to a certain extent he's still grieving. And he may not be, in the right mindset to lead the Avengers. And I'm wondering if maybe they're, if Ridley's working in conjunction with Aaron to set up a new status quo.
When I get to that Wakanda book, we can probably address slightly a bit of that.
Right. I think it's interesting that it's working not in the Avengers book, because the Avengers book is literally in, dealing with the big crossover, the big event, not just Judgment Day, but their own kind of event that they've had to put on hold to deal with Judgment Day. So next up is Daredevil number 4. It's written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Rafael De La Torre, colors by Matthew Wilson, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So, guess what, folks? Something you never thought was going to happen actually happens in this issue. Spoiler alert. They're not exactly playing Here Comes the Bride, but it might as well be. We'll put it that way, folks. I'm not spoiling everything, but they do, in fact, in this issue, talk about the inevitable conflict that's going to come to a head at some point between the leaders of the Fist, that being Daredevil and Elektra, and the leader of the Hand, that being Frank Castle, the Punisher. Next up is Fantastic Four number 48. It's written by David Pepose with art by Juan Cabal, colors by Jesus Bertov, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. This is the final issue in this volume of the Fantastic Four. There have been 2 issues to kind of cap off the run on this volume after Dan Slott left to helm the new Spider-Man book. So this is the second part of the taking of the Baxter Building.
Die Hard.
Right, Die Hard at the Baxter Building. Yes. And I thought it was okay. There's some revelations about Oubliette Midas in this that kind of, were out of left field. But at the end of the day, it was a nice little capper to this 2-issue story arc. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I said, I think that Oubliette thing might be a kind of a retcon, I guess. But that character is kind of, I've seen a character before, but don't really know much about him. So it is what it is either way. And yeah, as a closeout to the run of Slott's run, which I know that he's not writing this, it's kind of a down note. Because if they had ended it where he stopped, it would have been one thing, But then we got these extra 2 issues that are kind of basically like a filler episode.
Right. That's kind of what I was getting at, when I threw it to you, because I felt like these were unnecessary. But hey, this is normal for comics. It's normal. We're not used to the relaunches into new number 1s. If a creative team comes off, there is a filler arc more often than not. And then a new creative team comes on with the next numbering, but they're foregoing that because comics nowadays. Yeah.
That said, as a self-contained 2-issue and supposedly tie into Judgment Day, which is very loose. Die Hard in the Baxter Building actually has been a pretty good, it's been pretty interesting, and it's centered around Sue, even though the other characters have their own places in it. Ben has his Secret Wars moment.
Right.
Johnny's kind of over in the cut with some pizza until he gets his brainstorm, as to how to try to help out. But like I said, it's pretty much centered around Sue with Reed just narrating, and only comes in at the end.
Right. Right. He's basically locked.
When he comes in, it's like, even when he comes in, it's like, oh no, it's been you all along, and I don't know, Judgment Day, what?
Right, exactly. It was Agatha, no, not Agatha, but Sue all along, and ultimately, it's framed as a way of the progenitor judging at least Reed, if not the entire FF.
That's the part I was actually wondering about, because was this Reed's test, or was it all of their tests? I'm going to assume it's all of theirs, but that's not, you can't really tell.
Right. I mean, it's portrayed as them being judged as a family, which is not fair, but none of these tests are fair. I mean, look at what they did to poor Cap.
Get off it. You're redeemed. He's been redeemed.
In any event, next up and last up for me is Immortal X-Men number 7. It's written by Kieron Gillen with art by Lucas Verneck, colors by David Curiel, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So this fills in some of the gaps from Judgment Day number 6, was it?
5.
5? Oh, well, no, was it 5 where they lead up to
Technically, this takes place during and after 5.
All right. So
It
during
says it takes place after 5, but not really, because you go through the whole plan to it of what leads to the end of 5.
I see at the beginning now. Yeah, after the events of AXE Judgment Day number 5. I don't remember these things, folks. Do you know why? We read too many comics. So, so we get some mostly Nightcrawler centric stuff, right? He's of course as the primary man of faith among the X-Men, he is obviously dealing with the end of the world, and how he deals with that is basically the crux of this story. He also realizes that Destiny, who is the precog who has been brought back to life against Moira and their wishes, Moira, Charles, and Eric's wishes. Now, Destiny doesn't want to necessarily go down this path that they have to go down in order to win. So, we get a little bit of insight into the plan with Captain America that's in Judgment Day number 5. We also get some insight into what they plan to do with Orcus, and to try to get Orcus to do some stuff later on, which is interesting. This is post Judgment Day.
Well, I don't think so.
I guess it's like late Judgment Day.
Yeah, because I think part of that might have been hinted at in Death of the Mutants also, because he said something in Death of the Mutants like, "Yeah, I got some hackers on the case also." And that might have something to do with Orcus, because especially what he's when he's talking to Moira in this issue,
right?
Possibly, but might be also possibly going past Judgment Day also. I'm not sure.
Right. So it's interesting to see how all this stuff plays out. There were some more AXE Judgment Day tie-in books, but no time to read them this week, folks.
Well, I will get to one when I get to my books.
All right, and that's it for me.
I guess speaking of, no, well, you know what? Yeah, I'll move this around. AXE Iron Fist number 1, which is the other book, because I guess Captain Marvel this week was also a tie-in issue.
Right. I was about to say Wolverine and X-Force were also tie-in issues.
Yeah, that is also true.
But I didn't want to read the Kraven stuff in X-Force. Come on with that Kraven stuff.
Yeah, I'll probably wait till all that's all bundled. Not bundled, but all that's together before I read that, because I figure like it's going to be a weird read anyway. Anyway, AXE Iron Fist number 1. Written by Alyssa Wong, art by Michael Ig, and Marika Cresta, color artist Chris Sotomayor, and letters by, VC's Travis Lanham. So yeah, it's another tie-in to Judgment Day. This one is basically Loki and Lin Lee's tests in this one book. Coming off of that Iron Fist miniseries, because I guess you had to put him part of it somewhere. Where he's going to end up next, don't know. That whole thing with his brother and Loki and Kunlun, don't know. But here he is right now, and that's pretty much that. And the last book for me is Wakanda number 1, the new number 1 from this for this week, or a new number 1 for this week. Written. Well, the main story is written by Stephanie Williams, with pencils by Paco Medina, inks by Walden Wong and Elisabetta D'Amico, color artist Brian Valenza, and the backup story, which is the history of the Black Panthers, is written by Evan Narcisse. Art by Natasha Bustos, color artist Jordi, that's a typo, Jordi Belair, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So, interestingly enough, the main story is Shuri centric in the wake of, and this is being set before. According to the footnote at the beginning of the book, before Black Panther 11, so technically after this week's Black Panther number 10, where T'Challa is on the outs with Wakanda and possibly on the run. That's I had to pause there because that's the part that's kind of curious. Anyway, Shuri's got a lot on her plate. Queen Mother Ramonda has come to kind of get her out of the lab for a little bit, and a set of a shipment of rhinos ends up being a bit of trouble. Not even a bit of trouble, but end up being a temporary bit of trouble for Shuri in the form of, let's say, a Trojan Rhino that has revealed to be what that is. I'll leave that be that, which is kind of curious given recent issues of Miles Morales. I'm kind of curious as to why this happened, but I suspect that'll come across at some point. But also gives away to apparently a quote unquote visit by an old friend of Shuri's that is coming. That came in at the end of this book, who apparently is a character that has been is not a new character, but has been in the pages of Black Panther before. So I was not aware of this particular person, and this might have been through Shuri's run of Black Panther, but I'd have to go back there and check that for certain. And like I said, the backup story is the part one of the history of the Black Panthers, which a couple of references to recent 1 million BC Avengers story was in here. So this technically takes up after that and gives a little bit more info as to what happened after a particular certain part of that 1 million BC one-shot book that happened. And there's also a lengthy amount of footnotes about the history of Black Panther that was referenced in that backstory in the back of this book. So if you are a Black Panther fan and are curious about that kind of stuff, you might want to check this out. I believe this is a 5-issue miniseries, so this is one of 5. If you are keeping count, and that, folks, is it for me. Kliqs of the week.
Kliqs of the week.
We did not get anything from our other host, but apparently Halloween Ends is a good movie, if I'm referring from this chat message.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, of what I read, I didn't really have anything that stuck out to me this week. What about you?
I mean, Fantasy 448 for the whole diehardness of it kind of stuck out, but that last issue was kind of better. If that makes any sense.
No, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
Immortal X-Men for the fill-in for the fill-in stuff was kind of all right.
Mm-hmm.
And plus you get some insight into more Nightcrawler stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As to where his mind is at this point. Amazing is a curiosity, but I can't say it was a standout issue. Like, just okay, these people are back. What the hell's going on? That's pretty much what that was.
Yep.
And Wakanda #1.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go with probably the strongest read I had, because I was surprised that they actually did it. Like I said, Here Comes the Bride's not exactly out of place. I'm going to go with Daredevil #4.
Mm-hmm.
That's my Kliq of the week.
Okay. Oh, I'm glad I didn't do what I was just about to do, but that's fine. All right, so that's his Kliq. And I guess for myself, I don't know, this is a hard one. Because, yeah, like I said, there's stuff that was decent, but not really like just over the top stands out, some decent stuff. So, I don't know, just to close it out, Fantastic Four #48, I guess.
All right, cool.
Like I said, that Wakanda book was good, but given what it is, it's like, okay, yeah. We'll see what it comes up at. And that, folks, is the end of the books and the end of the show. Can we get one more ad read?
Our last ad read of the night. You know it's late. We've been at this for a while. Help us keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or your last-second Halloween costume things. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
All right, first, folks, I know this was a weird one because, we had our friend of the show, special guest, Matt Wang. We thank for coming by the way.
Thank you again.
We will definitely have him back, hopefully, when there's not a con.
Right. But there's listen, these shows, whenever we're coming off a con where there's plenty of news to talk about and we're talking about our own experiences at the con, always run long. And, like Roddykat said, we're a little disjointed today because we weren't 100% sure when Matt was going to be able to join us. So we shuffled some things around, but hopefully it was not too confusing.
Indeed. But we'll be back in our regular state of confusion next week.
Ball of confusion.
Exactly. So yeah, Chico's over. So we still got Andor. We still got one more Rings of Power to talk about.
Right.
You still have House of Dragon to talk about.
Yep.
I think that's it for a minute, actually.
Right, since we did cover Werewolf by Night this week.
Yes. So with that, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNerdsNeed on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_7 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_Dirt at that on Twitter. Pop Culture Net on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com is on his umbrella sites they're in. Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter. CB Cron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. The Kliq Nation on Twitter, which is TheKliqNation. TheKliqNation.com. And also comicbook.com, where he's over there writing his face off because I know he was busy.
Absolutely.
Also, if you want to follow a friend of the show, Matt Wang, is MattWang97, like we said earlier, on Twitter and Instagram, if I'm not mistaken, because I don't think I said that earlier.
Yep.
You can find us on the Coastal of the Podcast Network, that's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal of the Podcast Network SoundCloud page. You can also find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time, on the YouTube channel of The Kliq Nation. That's youtube.com/The Kliq Nation, and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. Hopefully we will be back to simultaneous streaming on both next week, but apparently Restream was having issues. But nevertheless, I will see that the episode gets up on YouTube. And with that, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
And knowing is half the battle.